Chapter 48. Lu Miaoyan. Under Lu Bo, the family head is willing to marry the second young miss to me, and I am truly overwhelmed and delighted. I am also very fond of the second young miss, but she and I are not suitable for each other, Lu Changxing said with a bitter smile as he faced Lu Bo, who had come with the air of demanding an explanation. Not only do I have so many wives and children, but when I first sought cultivation, I also vowed to marry 100 women and have several hundred children in my lifetime, and what the second young miss desires is a person who is wholly devoted to her, but this is something I cannot and will not be able to achieve. Therefore, while the second young miss and I might be fated to meet, we are not destined to share our lives. Even if we truly became husband and wife, these issues could potentially become seeds of discord. If there are conflicts, then I would have let down the family head's trust and nurturing. I would be too ashamed to face the family head, Lu Changxing said with a face full of sincere earnestness. Lu Bo's wrinkled face twitched slightly upon hearing Lu Changxing's words. The declaration of marrying 100 wives and fathering several hundred children was indeed too much for him to bear. He felt like asking, "Are you a breeding pig?" But considering that in a little over 4 years, Lu Changxing already had 12 women and had never stopped having children, he did seem to have some intention of striving toward that goal. Lu Bo sighed deeply. He never expected that in this arranged meeting, though Lu Miaohuan agreed, Lu Changxing on the other hand did not, feeling it was not suitable. However, as poorly considered as Lu Changxing's reasons might be, they were understandable and made some sense. While Lu Changxing's talent in talisman making was exceptional, it was still just latent potential and had not all been turned into strength. If the two truly married, Lu Miaohuan would technically be gaining the upper hand. Given Lu Miaohuan's personality, between the two of them, it would certainly be Lu Changxing making more concessions for Lu Miaohuan. It would still be fine if Lu Changxing were willing to make those concessions, but if the situation turned out as Lu Changxing described, and the two eventually entered into marital discord, what should the Lu family do then? Favor Lu Miaohuan? Naturally, that would not do. With Lu Changxing's exceptional natural talent in talisman making, if he could take his talents one step further, turning his potential into strength, his position in the Lu family would soon be comparable to that of a guest elder. To take such a course of action would clearly cause resentment in Lu Changxing, like driving him away from the family. The Lu family's strategy of marrying a direct female member to Lu Changxing was to firmly bind him to the Lu family. If things played out this way, it would be a case of being too clever by half, and the result would be the opposite of what was intended. But if they favored Lu Changxing, that would put the patriarch of the Lu family, Lu Yuanding, in a difficult position. Thus, if Lu Changxing and Lu Miaohuan did marry and conflict arose, the Lu family would indeed be in a difficult position on both sides. All right, I understand what you mean, and I will relay it to the family head as is. Lu Bo gave Lu Changxing a pat on the shoulder, not saying much else. After all, this kind of matter required the willing consent of both parties, and they couldn't force Lu Changxing into anything. Honestly speaking, the Lu family would even tend to lean more towards Lu Changxing's side. Thank you, Lu Bo, Lu Changxing said, wearing an expression of guilty apology. He had originally planned to use this occasion to bring up the matter of Li Feiyu's children to Lu Yuanding, see if he could request Lu Yuanding to reduce or at least lessen the number of Li Feiyu's 50 children. But now, after this development, he felt a bit embarrassed to bring it up and decided to set the matter aside, to look for another opportunity in the future. He said he wants to marry 100 wives? Have several hundred children? Lu Yuanding was at a loss for words upon hearing Lu Bo's account, unsure of what to say for a moment. Was this man trying to walk through what took 100 years for a family to accomplish in just a few decades? It seemed Lu Changxing had truly given up on cultivation and only wanted to have children. But considering Lu Changxing's 9th grade spiritual root, he could somewhat understand. Yes, family head, though it sounds like a joke, I feel that Lu Changxing is quite serious about it, and it doesn't seem like he is using it as an excuse to avoid marrying the second young miss, Lu Bo said with a bitter smile. Lu Yuanding nodded upon hearing this, then sighed deeply. I guess I did not consider this matter thoroughly enough. No matter whether Lu Changxing's words were an excuse or the truth, he harbored no blame toward him. As the head of a family, he still possessed the capacity to be tolerant of others. For the sake of the family's interests, he couldn't possibly blame Lu Changxing. Besides, when it came to this marriage, he had always been thinking about his daughter Lu Miaohuan. He felt that Lu Changxing was an excellent match for his daughter. He had never considered Lu Changxing's wishes and thoughts. There was also a subconscious arrogance in his heart. He thought that if he gave his daughter to Lu Changxing would be too grateful to refuse. But now that he thought about it, what Lu Changxing said made sense. Putting aside the matter of Lu Changxing wanting to have hundreds of children, their personalities also indeed did not match well. What if they had conflicts in the future? He was confident that he could control Lu Changxing now, but what about later? Even if he was the patriarch of the Lu family, he couldn't pressure someone with power forever. The other family elders wouldn't agree either. Moreover, what Lu Changxing said was also considering the Lu family's perspective. It showed that he had a certain sense of belonging to the Lu family. It was well-intentioned. Sigh. Lu Yuanding let out another sigh. He was now just a father worried sick over his daughter. Thinking of how his daughter's anger had subsided and she was willing to wait for Lu Changxing's response showed that his daughter truly had a good impression of Lu Changxing. But now that Lu Changxing disagreed, he was somewhat unsure how to face his daughter, or what to say about this matter. 2 days later, Lu Changxing received another matchmaking invitation. He understood now that the Lu family's upper echelons were determined to marry him to a woman of significance within the family. Only then would he truly be considered one of their own, a Lu family son-in-law. Even though he had previously married and taken 9 worldly women from the Lu family as wives and concubines, in the eyes of the family's higher-ups, this did not count as him truly being a Lu family son-in-law. The girl from this matchmaking session was named Lu Miaoyan, the granddaughter of the Lu family's 4th elder. 18 this year, with a 7th grade spiritual root, she was delicate and lovely, with a docile and sensible personality. Perhaps because of what happened with Lu Miaohuan, the Lu family had specifically chosen a docile and sensible girl. The matchmaking session went very smoothly. After the two met, both sides nodded in agreement, and the next day the Lu family arranged their wedding. The wedding day was set for 18 days later, coinciding with an auspicious day on the lunar calendar. Meanwhile, within an ancient and exquisitely elegant small building, smash! An ornately patterned vase was hurled to the ground, shattering into countless pieces. The fragments on the ground reflected a beautiful face filled with coldness. In the room, Lu Miaohuan smashed one vase after another to vent her anger until she finally calmed down. You tell me, is Lu Changxing purposely humiliating me because of what happened back then? Lu Miaohuan suddenly looked up, her eyes slightly red as she turned to her personal maid Kuei. After leaving the bamboo heart pavilion, her anger had slightly cooled, and she was still considering giving Lu Changxing another chance. As long as Lu Changxing was willing to come and apologize, she was still willing to marry him. But to her surprise, Lu Changxing flat out refused her. And just 2 days later, he was betrothed to her cousin, the granddaughter of the 4th elder, Lu Miaoyan. For her, a woman of high pride, it felt like humiliation. Miss, how could that be? The maid Kuei cautiously said, Lu Changxing would be too eager to please you. I heard that the reason Lu Changxing didn't agree is that he felt unworthy of you, Mississippi. He still wants to take wives and concubines to have a bunch of children, that's why he chose Miss Miaoyun. Lu Miaohuan surely knew that Lu Changxing wasn't purposely humiliating her. Her father Lu Yuanding had also come to soothe and comfort her. But she just couldn't swallow this insult. Lu Miaohuan's beautiful eyes narrowed, her chest rose and fell with indignation, and then she said through clenched teeth, Lu Changxing, I will find a man 10 times, 100 times stronger than you, to make you regret this. Chapter 49. Wedding. _1 After Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoyan's marriage was settled, the numerous wives and concubines in his backyard naturally came to know of it. Even if there was harmony in the backyard and all the women were virtuous and gentle, upon hearing such news, some felt a touch of gloom and loss. Not only was Lu Changxing going to take another wife, there were also reasons pertaining to the Lu family. After all, among these women, except for Chu Xinzhen, The rest were daughters of the Lu family. Now that Lu Changsheng's status in the Lu family had risen, the family was marrying off a granddaughter of an elder with a spiritual root to Lu Changsheng. And it was with all formalities, the giving of betrothal gifts and a grand wedding. This naturally made them feel somewhat uncomfortable. On a regular basis, although they had distinctions as wives and concubines, they were not separated into different levels, all depending on Lu Changsheng's affection. Once this granddaughter of the elder became his wife, it need not be said that she would be the principal wife. Ladies, do not worry, towards you all, I have always been fair, and in the future, I will make up for it by arranging a grand wedding for each of you. Lu Changsheng also noticed that his wives and concubines were somewhat unhappy and spoke up to comfort them. This group of wives and concubines had been with him for many years, all had borne him children twice, and were currently expecting the third, so naturally, there were strong emotions. Thank you, my lord. My lord, we are fine. The clan's willingness to marry Miss Miaoyun to my lord also shows the high regard they have for you. Although the women felt gloomy inside, with a sense of regret that they had helped their husband rise to nobility, they soon adjusted, knowing this was the reality. With Lu Changsheng's current identity and status, they, as secular women without spiritual roots, also felt somewhat unworthy of him. Being able to become Lu Changsheng's wives and concubines was already a fortunate thing. It was incomparably better than many other sisters, best friends, and acquaintances. Moreover, after so many years of living together, they had come to understand Lu Changsheng's character. They knew that their husband was not heartless, one who would forget old love upon finding new. That night, Lu Changsheng came to comfort his wives and concubines. And perhaps stimulated by the day's events, each concubine exerted extra effort, all joining together and using a myriad of techniques. Afterwards, Lu Changsheng lay on the bed with the women in his arms and couldn't help but think to himself. Indeed, one is influenced by one's surroundings. His wives and concubines never had so many tricks up their sleeves before. Through the recent contact with Zhou'er and Shu'er, who were sent by Hong Yi, they had learned so many new tricks. If this continued daily, how could one withstand it? In the blink of an eye, 18 days had passed. The wedding of Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoyun began. Unlike the simple ceremonies of Lu Changsheng's previous two weddings, this wedding was very formal and lively. All of Qingzhou Mountain was festive, decked out in lights and decorations, hung with large red lanterns. That day, Lu Changsheng also woke up early. He was dressed by two women, combed his hair, wore a golden crown, and changed into a red brocade groom's outfit. Then, with a big red flower on his chest, he mounted a spiritual steed, led the wedding procession, and came to the fourth elder's residence with much fanfare to receive the bridal palanquin. Since both families lived in Qingzhou Valley of the Lu family and were not far apart, after Lu Changsheng placed Lu Miaoyun, dressed in fiery red bridal attire and in her phoenix crown and rosy clouds robe, into the bridal palanquin, he led the procession around the entirety of Qingzhou Mountain. Along the way, many of the Lu family disciples came to watch the wedding. I still remember standing here 4 years ago, witnessing Lu Changsheng entering our Lu family as a live-in son-in-law. Who could have thought that after just over 4 years, he would be marrying our Miaoyun? There's no helping it. Who can blame someone for having such a good talent for talisman making? Indeed, who would have thought that a son-in-law brought in for breeding purposes would possess such talisman-making talent? A middle-grade talisman master, no less, who became one in just over 3 years, even surpassing Sister Maeage's talent in talisman making. The fourth elder might be looking to have him succeed him by marrying off a member of the Miaoyun clan to Lu Changsheng. Having married a sister from the Miaoyun clan, with the care of the fourth elder, Lu Changsheng has really soared high. Lu Changsheng only has a 9th grade spiritual root. No matter what, he has no hope of achieving foundation establishment in this life. Foundation establishment? I have a 6th grade spiritual root, and even I dare not dream of achieving foundation establishment without some fortuitous opportunity. But this Lu Changsheng really has changed a lot. I remember when he first arrived he seemed so ordinary, but now he is quite handsome. He's always engrossed with women. He must have practiced some sort of cultivation technique for preserving youth and beauty. If only I had married Lu Changsheng earlier. Many disciples from the Lu family, seeing the handsome and tall Lu Changsheng riding a spiritual horse to marry Lu Miaoyun, expressed their feelings of admiration and envy. In just 4.5 short years, many of them witnessed Lu Changsheng's entry into the Lu family as a breeding son-in-law. Then he became a talisman-making apprentice, a talisman master, moved to Qingzhou Valley, and now he's marrying the granddaughter of the fourth elder. The immortal seedlings who came to the Lu family as sons-in-law with Lu Changsheng saw him on the spiritual horse and felt an incomparable envy, as if it were something out of a dream. Back then, they were all eliminated by Qingyun sect and came to the Lu family as sons-in-law. Now 4.5 years have passed, and they are still breeding for the Lu family, working to complete the task of producing 50 descendants over 20 years. Meanwhile, Lu Changsheng has already married the direct granddaughter of the fourth elder of the Lu family, a female cultivator with a spiritual root. To know, this fourth elder is a first-grade top-level talisman master. With an extraordinary status in the Lu family, Lu Changsheng's marriage to his granddaughter made everyone envious. In the crowd, Li Feiyu watched this scene, reflecting on their shared past coming to the Lu family, also filled with mixed emotions. But still, he felt happy for Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng rode the spiritual horse, aware of the various gazes on himself, and couldn't help feeling a bit of the pride of riding on the spring breeze. He felt that after enduring so long in the Lu family, he had finally made something of himself. However, he was very clear in his heart, in this world where the strong prey upon the weak in power is respected. Cultivation and strength are the true paths to supremacy. His current status and position were all owing to his talisman-making skill. It was a shortcut, like a rootless weed or a pavilion in the sky. He must not get carried away. After making a circuit around the entire Qingzhou mountain, Lu Changsheng brought the bride back to his mansion. With many senior members of the Lu family as witnesses, the wedding began. Pay respects to heaven and earth. Pay respects to the high hall. The couple bows to each other. Escort to the bridal chamber. After the wedding was completed, Lu Miaoyun was finally ranked as Lu Changsheng's main wife. Lu Changsheng had known about this well in advance. He did not contend for these titles or status with the Lu family, so as not to displease the fourth elder. His other wives and concubines were also prepared from the beginning and understood the situation. After sending the bride to the bridal chamber, Lu Changsheng untied the large red flower and went out to receive the guests. On this day, he got to know the higher echelons, clan elders, and guest elders of the Lu family. He was officially inducted into the inner circle of the Lu family and became one of their own. During this process, he saw the fifth elder of the Lu family, who proposed the idea of buying barrel bamboo wine during the toasting. Hearing this, the fifth elder readily agreed. He also mentioned that his family had many other kinds of spiritual wine, and Lu Changsheng could come to taste and purchase them later. Chapter 50. Buy one get one free. One night had fallen. The guests, full from the feast and merry with wine, gradually dispersed, and Lu Changsheng headed to the bridal chamber to consummate the marriage. Young master. Standing outside the bridal room was a young girl dressed in a green luo skirt with 2 buns atop her head, her features delicate and pretty, her eyes large and clear. This was Lu Miaoyun's personal maid, named Xiaoqing. She too possessed a spiritual root, a cultivator. For a cultivation family like the Lu family, in order to ensure a constant supply of fresh blood, they would also search for children with spiritual roots in the secular world. Once found, these children would be sent to Qingzhou Mountain for nurturing. However, unless a child was particularly talented, most were taught the skills of spirit plant cultivation, spirit slaughter, culinary arts, wine brewing, mining, and so on. Compared to formations, elixir medicines, artifact refining, and talismans, these skills did not have a high threshold, were fairly easy to learn, but were rather arduous. The Lu family's spirit fields, Qingzhou forests, and spirit mines, all work that required cultivators, were basically managed by these adopted disciples. When these individuals reached a certain age, the men would marry secular women from the Lu family, and the women would become concubines to the young masters of the Lu family, kept within the family's own circles. Xiaoqing belonged to the children raised by the Lu family from a young age, serving as Lu Miao's maid. Unless something unforeseen occurred, she was expected to become the concubine of a Lu family disciple in the future. But at this moment, since Lu Miaoyun was marrying Lu Changxing, Xiaoqing also accompanied the bride as a chambermaid. For Lu Changxing, marrying Lu Miaoyun and gaining a maid with a spiritual root as part of her dowry was indeed a pleasant surprise. Xiaoqing, you've worked hard, Lu Changxing said with a smile to the charming maid standing before him, nodded his head, then pushed open the door and entered. Red lamps burned brightly in the room, embellished with festivity, set up in splendid brilliance. Lu Miaoyun was draped in a fiery red phoenix-embroidered bridal dress, wearing a phoenix crown and rosy clouds robe, her head covered with a red veil, demurely sitting atop the bridal bed. Miaoyun. Lu Changxing approached the bed and called out to the beauty before him. Lu Miaoyun did not respond, but even her seated posture betrayed a slight nervousness. Young master. At that moment, the maid Xiaoqing approached with a tray that held a jade balance beam and a set of wine utensils. While the Lu family was a cultivation family, they were not completely detached from some of the secular customs and practices. Lu Changxing knew the rituals, took the jade balance beam, and gently lifted the red veil obscuring Lu Miaoyun's face. A visage of gentle and soft beauty, dazzlingly lovely, was unveiled. Her arched brows framed her clear eyes, her nose was delicate and pretty, and her small mouth was luscious red. She might not be as exquisitely stunning as Lu Miaohuan, but she was quite attractive. She possessed the kind of sweet, enduring beauty that gave the impression of a pure girl next door. My husband, as the veil lifted, Lu Miaoyun's long lashes trembled slightly, her pretty face blushed with shyness, and she called out in a voice that was soft, sweet, and slightly naive. Her personality wasn't as timid or delicate as Chu Zhenqian's, nor was she the type to be calm and composed. Furthermore, as a woman who had only met Lu Changxing once before their marriage was arranged, how could she be completely at ease on their wedding night? Lu Changxing chuckled, took a wine jug from the tray, poured Lu Miaoyun a cup of spiritual wine, and then poured one for himself. He then said, "Miaoyun, today we become husband and wife, and from this day forward, we shall journey through life together. Come, let's finish this drink. I will follow my husband's guidance for the rest of my life." A blush showed on Lu Miaoyun's face as she looked at the handsome young man before her, and then they exchanged cups of wine. Wishing the young master and young mistress 100 years of harmony, and may you have an early heir, said the maid Xiaoqing as she collected the cups, her voice clear and crisp. Then, with a curtsy, she left the room, closed the door behind her, and left the newlyweds alone. After drinking the wedding cup, Lu Changxing immediately felt a bit of heat in his lower abdomen and realized there was something off about the drink. Lu Miaoyun's complexion was also flushed and rosy, like blooming peach blossoms. In the room, the sound of their breathing at this moment seemed exceptionally clear. Lu Changxing didn't need to think to know that the just-consumed wedding cup must have been specially prepared by the Lu family, intended to enhance the mood of the wedding night. He directly embraced his delicate wife in his arms and said, "Yuner, it's time to rest." "My lord, the light is still on," Lu Miaoyun murmured softly. "It's fine, this way I can see clearly." That year, Lu Changxing was 22 years old. He had 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored beauties, and a maid. The next day, dawn broke brightly. The gentle sunlight filtered through the lattice window, casting its light onto the messy, bright red wedding garments and fiery bridal dress on the floor. After waking up, Lu Changxing looked at the disheveled beauty in his arms, with tear stains still visible at the corner of her eyes, and felt completely relaxed and spirited, without a hint of lethargy. Seeing Lu Miaoyun's pitiful state, remembering what happened the night before, he thought to himself that this little wife was indeed obedient and well-behaved, without the slightest bit of young mistress temperament. He couldn't help but kiss her pretty and fair cheek. This little action immediately woke up the sleeping Lu Miaoyun. She opened her eyes and softly called out to Lu Changxing. "My lord," the voice was tender and silly, stirring a few threads of affection in Lu Changxing's heart. He gently pinched her fair, blushing cheek and said softly, "It's still early, you rest well. We have to go see Grandma later." Lu Miaoyun rubbed her eyes, not going back to sleep, indicating she wanted to get up. Seeing this, Lu Changxing immediately supported the beauty. However, after all, Lu Miaoyun possessed the 4th-level energy refinement cultivation. Her body was stronger than that of ordinary people. Even though Lu Changxing was somewhat rational yesterday, he had not made their first time such that she couldn't get up and move. Moreover, the spiritual wine was somewhat beneficial for her. Soon the two got out of bed and started dressing. Lu Miaoyun quickly gathered up the handkerchief and placed it in the mandarin duck brocade box nearby. This caused Lu Changxing to smile. Afterwards, the two of them tidied up their clothes and pushed open the room door, ready to go pay respects to the 4th elder. "Young master, miss." The maid Xiaoqing was standing outside the door, clearly not having slept all night. "Xiaoqing, didn't I tell you? You didn't have to stay up, you should go rest now," Lu Miaoyun told her. A maid like Xiaoqing, who possessed a spiritual root, wasn't entirely there to serve when following the young masters and mistresses. She was more for miscellaneous tasks while also learning a few things. To use her solely for serving would be too wasteful. "Miss, I'm not tired," Xiaoqing said with a gentle smile, her voice crisp and melodious like an oriole. She had a 9th-grade spiritual root and already reached the 2nd level in Qi refinement, much more energetic than ordinary people. Lu Miaoyun didn't say much more and, hand in hand with Lu Changxing, left the estate to head toward the residence of the 4th elder. Chapter 51. Lu family's 4th elder. _1. You must live a good life with Changxing from now on, and listen to your husband more, understand? Changxing, Yuner is my granddaughter. Now that I've entrusted her to you, don't let me down. The 4th elder looked at Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoyun and spoke out. Although this 4th elder was in her 70s or 80s and old enough to be a grandmother, she did not look her age at all. She wore a deep cyan, elegantly simple dress, with black hair meticulously coiled up, secured by a slanting jade hairpin. Her complexion was rosy and healthy, making her look like a noblewoman in her 30s or 40s. However, upon closer inspection, one could see strands of white in her temples and a few crow's feet around her almond-shaped eyes. But these white hairs and wrinkles did not make the woman appear much older. On the contrary, they added a strong sense of maturity to her overall bearing. "Grandmother, please rest assured that Changxing will certainly take good care of Yuner and won't let her suffer the slightest grievance," Lu Changxing replied respectfully. Even though it was a marriage of convenience, now that they were married and had shared the bridal chamber, he naturally intended to take it seriously and assume his duties and responsibilities. Lu Miaoyun also softly acknowledged. Good. Grandmother believes in you. Work hard together so I can hold great-grandchildren soon, the 4th elder said, joining their hands together and smiling. Her demeanor was gentle and kind, her tone warm, but because she had held a high position for a long time, her words carried a faint authority. Upon hearing these words, Lu Miaoyun's cheeks immediately turned a shade of red, and she lowered her head shyly. Lu Changxing responded with a frank expression. Yes, Changxing will certainly strive hard. He, too, hoped that Lu Miaoyun would conceive soon. Changxing, I've heard from Miaoga that you've never been formally taught in talisman making and have relied solely on your own exploration. Grandmother teaches a class on talisman making at the end of each month. You should come as well. If you have any problems or issues with your cultivation, feel free to come directly to grandmother, continued the 4th elder, speaking gently as if she were a kind and loving elder. As a person responsible for the Lu family's talisman making, she not only made talismans herself but also taught other Lu family disciples in the art, in the hopes of cultivating new talisman masters. After all, types of talents such as array masters, alchemists, artifact refiners, and talisman masters were never too numerous for any family, which always hoped for more. However, these skills were highly dependent on innate talent and had a very high threshold. Among the Lu family, She had only managed to teach Lu Miaoge. Like Lu Miaoyun, her granddaughter had also learned talisman making, but with no real talent for it, otherwise, she would have been cultivated as well. It was her efforts that allowed Lu Miaoyun to have a second arranged meeting with Lu Changxing. As long as Lu Changxing married Lu Miaoyun, the fourth elder was willing to instruct and train him carefully, adding a second-grade talisman master to the Lu family. Changxing thanks grandmother deeply. Lu Changxing immediately said with a bow, his voice betraying excitement. He was aware that the fourth elder before him was a top-level first-grade talisman master, and also possessed the 9th-level energy refinement cultivation. There was naturally no issue with her guiding his cultivation. As for talisman making, although he had no need for guidance, having the fourth elder's instruction as a cover would allow him to reveal his talents in talisman making even faster in the future. Otherwise, having just become a middle-grade talisman master, revealing the abilities of a top-grade master would take at least 3 to 5 years. That was an excruciating amount of time. With the fourth elder's endorsement, he might be able to accelerate that timeline according to the situation. We are one family, there's no need for such formality. I am Yunur's grandmother, and from now on, it'll be yours too. If you encounter any difficulties or have any issues, feel free to reach out to grandmother. I still carry a fair bit of weight in my words here at the Lu family, the fourth elder said with a gentle and benevolent smile. Yes, grandmother, Lu Changxing responded, also revealing a sincere smile. Even though he was aware of the underlying motives in her caring and affectionate words, they truly warmed his heart and made him feel a sense of closeness. Immediately, Lu Changxing addressed the fourth elder, Grandma, Changxing indeed has a matter for which he would like to trouble you. What matter? The fourth elder's expression was gentle. Changxing has a good friend by the name of Li Feiyu, who came with Changxing to the Lu family to become a son-in-law. This friend of mine is different from me. He is wholeheartedly devoted to cultivation. Now he is hindered by the obligation of fathering children, so I would like to trouble Grandma, to see if it's possible to exempt him from the requirement of having 50 children, or at least reduce this number, Lu Changxing said. He certainly had not forgotten about his good brother Li Feiyu's situation. He had intended to discuss this matter with the family head Lu Yuanding before. But because of Lu Miaohuan's situation, he felt somewhat embarrassed to bring it up to Lu Yuanding. Since he now had the opportunity, he naturally took the chance to mention it. Such matters are not really for Grandma to interfere in. However, since you, Changxing, have brought it up, Grandma will naturally help you with this, the fourth elder said after a slight pause. For her, as the Lu family's fourth elder, such a matter was not difficult at all. It would only take a single word if she were willing. Moreover, the request came from Lu Changxing. By now, Lu Changxing held some weight in the hearts of the Lu family's higher-ups. For such a minor issue, they were willing to do him a favor and have Lu Changxing feel a bit more gratitude towards the Lu family. After all, Lu Changxing's request wasn't over the top. In fact, this request raised her opinion and estimation of Lu Changxing by several notches. A man of integrity and loyalty. In the cultivation world, being a person of integrity and valuing relationships is not considered much of an advantage. But from the perspective of the Lu family, she naturally hoped that Lu Changxing was a person of integrity who valued relationships. For your sake, Changxing, Grandma has the authority to annul your friend Li Feiyu's original contract altogether, exempting him from the requirement to have children. But there are rules that make a family. The Lu family also has its rules and does not support idlers. After exempting him from the requirement to have children, he will no longer enjoy any of the Lu family's benefits and entitlements. He may continue to reside in the Lu family, but he must perform certain services for the family. If he cannot accept this, then he must leave the Lu family, the fourth elder explained. At that moment, her gentle and kind tone carried an undertone of unspoken authority. Thank you, Grandma. I will discuss these matters with him later and will give you a response afterward. Hearing this, Lu Changxing stood up and bowed his hands in salute, feeling that this arrangement was already generous enough. Having been in the Lu family for a while, he was aware of some of the Lu family's circumstances. Although they had their own spiritual vein-blessed land and assets, they could not be considered overly abundant. Some of the peripheral disciples of the Lu family in Qingzhou Villa had to refine materials, guard bamboo groves, and cut down Qingling bamboo to earn spirit stones, among other tasks. In such circumstances, how could they afford to provide for idlers? To annul the past contract without any cost, and to offer the choice of either staying with the Lu family to work or leaving was already quite acceptable. Otherwise, according to the original contract conditions, if one did not have 50 children within 20 years, not only would one have to compensate with 3 times the resources, but also serve the Lu family for 10 years. Fine, once you have a result, just let Grandma know, and at that time Grandma will speak to the family head about this matter, the 4th elder said with a smile on her face. Afterwards, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoyun chatted for a while with the 4th elder before excusing themselves and departing. As they were leaving, the 4th elder even stuffed several boxes of pastries and spirit fruits into Lu Changxing's hands, giving him the feeling of visiting relatives during the new year. Chapter 52, Li Feiyu's Choice _1 After leaving the 4th elder's residence, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoyun visited the 5th elder's residence on their way. They also came to purchase spiritual wine and to inquire whether the wedding wine they drank last night was also brewed by this 5th elder. He felt the spiritual wine last night was quite good. Changxing, this is the green jade bamboo wine you requested, brewed from our Lu family's green jade spiritual bamboo, which nourishes the flesh and relieves fatigue. This is the green pear wine, brewed from green pears, with effects similar to the green jade bamboo wine. Though the taste is relatively tart, you can try it. This is the white jade 100 flowers wine, brewed from white jade spiritual rice and dozens of flowers and fruits, with effects that nourish the flesh and calm the mind. The flavor is rich, sweet, and lingers long. This is the millet ancient wine, brewed from millet spiritual rice. The 5th elder, seeing Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoyun come to buy spiritual wine, was also very enthusiastic, presenting a variety of spiritual wines for Lu Changxing to taste. All these spiritual wines were first grade, with their quality, lower, middle, or upper grade, determined by the age of the raw materials and the fermentation time. Brewing wine and alchemy are different. Apart from the raw materials, there is also a significant cost of time. Even if the raw materials for spiritual wine are average, by storing it in a place rich in spiritual energy to continuously absorb energy and ferment gently, the spiritual energy within the wine becomes more mellow and concentrated, thus improving the quality. Lu Changxing briefly tasted a few types of spiritual wine and found that the green jade bamboo wine and the white jade 100 flowers wine suited his taste more. He then asked Lu Miaoyun which flavor of spiritual wine she preferred. Her tastes were similar to his, favoring the white jade 100 flowers wine. Without delay, Lu Changxing told the 5th elder that he wished to purchase 10 bottles of green jade bamboo wine and 10 jars of white jade 100 flowers wine. He also asked the 5th elder if the wedding wine he drank the previous night was one of the 5th elder's brews. The 5th elder chuckled and told Lu Changxing that the wedding wine was called Tiger Wolf tonic wine. Drinking it occasionally was good for the body and cultivation, but too much could actually harm the body. Drinking a cup once every 10 days or half a month would suffice. Immediately, Lu Changxing requested a bottle of the Tiger Wolf tonic wine. He planned to take it back and use it to rejuvenate his wives and concubines. The green jade bamboo wine and white jade 100 flowers wine were the lower grade of the younger years, costing 2 spirit stones per bottle and 3 spirit stones per jar, respectively. The Tiger Wolf tonic wine, however, cost 5 spirit stones per bottle. Altogether, it came to 55 spirit stones, and the 5th elder generously gave Lu Changxing a discount of 5 spirit stones. After purchasing the spiritual wine, Lu Changxing didn't stay long and bid farewell to the 5th elder with Lu Miaoyun. However, Lu Changxing had Lu Miaoyun go back first as he made his way to Qingzhou Villa. He planned to discuss the recent events with Li Feiyu. Brother Changxing. Good to see you, brother-in-law. Changxing, brother-in-law. Brother Changxing, do you need anything over here? As Lu Changxing arrived at Qingzhou Villa, many Lu family disciples actively greeted him along the way. Now that Lu Changxing had become a middle-grade talisman master and married Lu Miaoyun, There was no unpleasantness among the Lu family disciples towards him, feeling that even a mere son-in-law deserved no less. Under the Lu family's education that prioritizes family above all else, Lu Changxing was now seen as one of their own in their eyes. Even if some were displeased, they wouldn't be foolish enough to show it. Moreover, Lu Changsheng's personality was very amicable and he was easy to talk to, never offending anyone. Everyone was willing to be on good terms with this talisman master. Lu Changxing didn't know many of these people very well. But faced with their greetings, he always nodded and smiled in response, exchanging a few words. Sometime later, Lu Changxing arrived at Li Feiyu's residence and rang the doorbell. The door was opened by one of Li Feiyu's wives. "Please wait a moment, brother-in-law Changxing. I'll go inform my husband." After seeing that it was Lu Changxing, knowing he was there to see Li Feiyu, she politely invited him into the living room to wait, served him tea, and then went to notify Li Feiyu. "Changxing, what brings you here?" Soon after, Li Feiyu arrived in the hall. "What, can't I come for a visit without any particular reason?" Lu Changxing said with a smile. "Didn't you just get married? Aren't you busy with something?" Li Feiyu smiled and said, "What could I possibly be busy with? I've come because there's something I need to tell you." Lu Changxing said, "What thing, what thing?" Li Feiyu asked. "About the matter of you having 50 children in 20 years. Lu Changxing picked up his teacup, took a light sip and said, "Did you bring this up with the family head? What did the family head say?" Upon hearing this, Li Feiyu's entire body shook, a look of surprise appeared on his face, and he eagerly looked at Lu Changxing. Although he had previously said he didn't want to trouble Lu Changxing, over the years, the Lu family had also started to put pressure on them, the immortal seedlings, to have children. Because of his relationship with Lu Changxing, Uncle Fu had also been relatively lenient towards him. But he had mentioned it a few times, so under pressure, he had also had 5 children, with 2 more on the way. Gulp, Lu Changxing didn't speak. Under Li Feiyu's eager gaze, he slowly took a sip of tea, comfortably sighed, and then said, "I didn't mention it to the family head." Li Feiyu was stunned. Seeing Li Feiyu's reaction, Lu Changxing then smiled and said, "I talked to the 4th elder about your situation, and the 4th elder has agreed. He agreed to waive the matter of having 50 children and has given you 2 choices. One is..." Lu Changxing did not leave him in suspense and relayed the 4th elder's words. "Great, great, that's great." Li Feiyu's face showed excitement and elation. Being able to resolve the contract without any cost and not having to have 50 children made him very satisfied. He took a deep breath and with a serious expression thanked Lu Changxing. "Changxing, thank you so much for this matter. We don't need to be so polite between us. Feiyu, are you planning to continue staying with the Lu family or to leave?" Lu Changxing waved his hand and asked aloud. He truly regarded Li Feiyu as a brother and would naturally help with something within his ability. Ever since he became a first-grade middle-stage talisman master, he had wanted to discuss this matter with Lu Yuanding. But because of Lu Miaohuan's situation, he felt a little embarrassed to bring it up with Lu Yuanding, so he waited until now. Although the children belong to the Lu family, they are still young, and I just can't bring myself to walk away and leave them behind. I choose to continue working with the Lu family until the children are a bit older and have reached the middle stage of qi refinement, said Li Feiyu after a moment of contemplation. His unwillingness to have 50 children wasn't just because it interfered with his cultivation. It was also because he had attachments and couldn't bear to ignore them and walk away without a care. I also think it's better to stay with the Lu family for now. Lu Changxing nodded in agreement, sharing the same opinion. Li Feiyu was only at the 3rd level of qi refinement. Going out as a loose cultivator would be very difficult, so it was better to stay with the Lu family for now. At least in the Lu family, if possible, he could still look out for him. Then, he teased, now that you have 7 children, it's possible that one might have the spiritual root and end up teaching you a thing or two. I don't harbor such extravagant hopes. Everyone says how wonderful cultivation is, but once you step onto the path of immortality, you realize it's not as beautiful as you imagine. If possible, I actually hope none of them have the spiritual root so they can live quietly and carefree in the mortal world for the rest of their lives. Li Feiyu said with a smile and a shake of his head. Initially, he was single-minded in his pursuit of immortality, even willing to give up his status as the young master of the Crimson Whale Gang to become a son-in-law in the Lu family. But now, after more than 4 years, he had come to understand that the path of cultivation was not as wonderful as he had imagined. It was extremely brutal. If one's spiritual root talent was poor and they had no family background, cultivation could be much harder than struggling in the mortal realm. You don't sound like yourself. What, are you regretting embarking on this path of cultivation? Lu Changxing raised his eyebrows when he heard this. This was not the Li Feiyu he remembered. He still remembered Li Feiyu's words from back then, life is but 100-year dream, and one must not miss the chance at immortality if it arises, which led him to forsake his position as the young master of the Crimson Whale Gang to be a son-in-law at the Lu family. Chapter 53. Encouragement, Demonic Spirit Root. Just some regret? Not really, but sometimes I do wonder, is it all worth it? Li Feiyu slightly shook his head, speaking with a hint of wistfulness. People always grow, and over the 4 years at the Lu family, he too had his edges worn down and was no longer as brash and confident as he once was. Hearing this, Lu Changxing fell into a brief silence. He thought of his past self. Full of passion at graduation, extremely diligent, but gradually began to settle for less a few years later. And Li Feiyu was in an even more severe situation. In secular life, as the young master of the Crimson Whale Gang, he was a top expert at 18, and calling him a promising youth was no exaggeration. But upon coming to the cultivation world and becoming a son-in-law to the Lu family, although he stepped onto the cultivation path, life was just about having children, with hardly any hope seen in cultivation. How could such a life continue to be filled with passion and brilliance? He stood up, patted Li Feiyu on the shoulder, and said, "Feiyu, I always remember what you said back then. It was when you chose to come to the Lu family, that saying life is but a dream of 100 years, if a chance at immortality presents itself, it cannot be missed. You and I are fortunate to possess the spiritual root and to step onto the path of immortality, to see the scenery beyond the reach of common folk. We are already luckier than 99% of the world. We must be brave, make diligent progress, press on valiantly, so as not to fail the precious gift from heaven. Be it the arduous or treacherous journey of seeking immortality, it is all just part of life's landscape. Do not forget why you started, continue to hone yourself, and persevere to the end. Even if you should fail, you will have no regrets. Otherwise, possessing the spiritual root and a chance at immortality, yet giving up on yourself and quitting halfway, to ultimately lead a mediocre life, would you be content?" Lu Changxing looked at Li Feiyu and spoke out. He did not want to see his spirited, immortality-seeking brother grind away his edges and lose his sharpness in such a life, ending up mediocre. Moreover, these words were not just for Li Feiyu, but also for himself. Externally, he always seemed indifferent to ambition, seeking only a peaceful life. But in reality, from the moment he awakened the memories of his past life and learned of the existence of immortals in this world, his heart harbored an endless yearning to pursue cultivation. No reason needed. Being an immortal warrants the pursuit. No reason required, nor needed. However, he had the system by his side, could see hope, and was also full of hope for his future. Hearing what Lu Changxing had to say, Li Feiyu's spirit was greatly shaken. He hadn't expected his brother, who always seemed to lack grand aspirations and only wanted a life of pleasure with multiple wives and children, to utter such inspiring words. But he also knew that Lu Changxing was comforting him, encouraging him. Yet, in the next moment, he suddenly remembered what Han Lin had mentioned at their 3-year reunion, that Lu Changxing had once placed first in the heart-testing platform during the 4th trial at the Qingyun sect. The heart-testing platform tests one's Dao heart. That is, the mindset and will to seek immortality. If Lu Changxing could achieve first place, how could he truly lack ambition and relinquish the pursuit of immortality? That's it. Changxing knows he possesses a 9th-grade spiritual root, and there is no path to immortality in this life, so he seeks immortality in a different way. By marrying and having children, multiplying his offspring, he carries on the heart of seeking immortality, entrusting it to his descendants. Li Feiyu thought to himself. In this moment, his heart seemed much clearer. If he really had no grand ambition and only knew indulgence in sensual pleasures, focusing on progeny, how could he possibly have sold the flying sword he obtained not long after arriving at the Lu family, and spend all the spirit stones to learn talisman making? And in 4.5 years, he went from a son-in-law to a middle-grade talisman master, marrying the granddaughter of the Lu family's elder. This clearly wasn't what someone indifferent to ambition and obsessed with pleasures would achieve. If his own brother could do so much, how could he be any worse, any farther behind? Looking at Lu Changxing with newfound resolve in his eyes, he said, "Content? Of course not. Changxing, you are right, the chance for immortality is rare, and we are fortunate to have witnessed it. How could we possibly give up easily? Ordinary folk seek nothing but fame, fortune, and social status, but what we desire is immortal longevity, which obviously isn't easy. That's exactly why we should strive even harder, with a heart that dares to pursue what seems impossible. Life is but a dream of 100 years. With a sight of immortality before us, we must not live it in mediocrity." "Thank you, Changxing." Li Feiyu spoke, his eyes alight with a sharp and burning flame. "No need to thank me. I simply don't want to see you, before truly entering the world of cultivation, losing your edges and your sharpness." Lu Changxing said aloud. In this world, he didn't have many friends. Li Feiyu was pretty much the only one he could count. He still hoped that Li Feiyu could go a long way on the path of cultivation in the future. How could Li Feiyu be so easily defeated? "Now that I'm no longer bound by a mere contract, once the child grows a bit more and I break through to the middle stage of qi refinement, I'll go out and make my mark, truly experiencing the cultivation world. Otherwise, if things keep going like this, I'm afraid I'll really lose my edge and dull my sharpness. If I end up as a pile of dry bones one day, I'll have to trouble you to take care of my wives and children." Li Feiyu said with a laugh, full of nonchalance. Having come from a Jianghu gang, he was quite philosophical about life and death, but he couldn't let go of the people around him. "Don't you be setting up your banners so early." Lu Changsheng's mouth twitched as he said, "Setting up what banner?" Li Feiyu asked. "It's nothing. If anything unexpected does happen, I'll take care of your wife and kids myself." Lu Changsheng said with a smile, shaking his head. Li Feiyu didn't take these words to heart, and the two continued to catch up on old times. Ever since Lu Changxing moved to Qingzhou Valley, the two of them really had fewer opportunities to meet and chat. Lu Changxing also brought out the Biu bamboo wine he had just bought from the fifth elder and shared a bottle with Li Feiyu. After a small drink, Lu Changxing didn't stay long and went straight back to report Li Feiyu's situation to the fourth elder. The fourth elder was very efficient and had everything sorted out for Li Feiyu the next day, dissolving the contract he had signed with the Lu family before. Thanks to Uncle Fuss arrangements, Li Feiyu chose to become a spiritual butcher due to his expertise in martial arts and blade techniques. A spiritual butcher is much like a regular butcher. One who skins demon beasts, debons them, extracts their marrow, takes their cores, and so on, handling their dissection. There are many special demon beasts that, after being hunted down, are not only troublesome to harvest materials from but also can easily lead to waste and damage to the materials. In such cases, they would hire a skilled spiritual slaughterer to handle the dissection and material recovery. As Li Feiyu chose to become a spiritual butcher, the Lu family naturally had an experienced hand to guide him. If it weren't for Li Feiyu's lack of strength, he would have wanted to join the Lu family's patrol hunting team to hunt demon beasts. Seeing Li Feiyu free himself from childcare to learn a trade, Lu Changxing was also relieved. This was pretty much all he could help with at the moment. At the border between Jiang country's Qing province and Jizhou, there stood a precipitous range of hills, with eerie and oddly shaped rocks, filled with dense mists, over a bottomless cliff. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, woo woo woo, the cold wind howled in the valley, and the gray mist pervaded, making one's heart palpitate. In the center, a crimson lake had now dried up. Only a huge blood cocoon and a pile of stacked bones remained. The blood-red glow on the cocoon flickered on and off like a heart beating quietly, breathing, incredibly eerie. Just then, the blood cocoon emitted a dull heartbeat sound, like a giant drum vibrating, shaking the entire valley involuntarily. Moments later, in the void, an old man and a young man appeared. The young man was dressed in a wide black robe, and his black hair was tied up with a wooden pin, giving him an exceptionally handsome look, a beauty that was tantalizing and marked with a maturity beyond his years. As expected of the demonic spirit root, to have integrated the demon lord's blood and completed the baptism so quickly. The young man looked at the blood cocoon and chuckled lightly, his tone full of a strange affinity. "Congratulations, ancestor. Good fortune to you, ancestor." The old man immediately bowed in salute and congratulated. The young man chuckled again and lightly pointed at the blood cocoon. Suddenly, the cocoon began to crack open bit by bit, turning into specks of blood-red light, revealing the man wrapped inside. The man, in his 20s, had an elegant and handsome face, with skin white and smooth, but there was a half-moon blood lotus on his brow, faint yet indelible, adding a sense of wicked enchantment. He slowly regained consciousness, opening his eyes. They were different from ordinary people's, shining with a dark and blood-red light, captivating and eerie. "Where am I? I remember. I think I encountered bandits and then I jumped off a cliff." Xianxia, as if awakening from a dream, with blood-red eyes full of confusion, rubbed the center of his brow. But the next moment he saw his palms had become as pale as jade, his fingernails sharp and fierce, glowing in eerie red, and he was taken aback. What is this?" Then he saw the piles of white bones around him and got another shock, filled with terror. Before he could linger on his astonishment, a young man approached him and said with a laugh, "From today on, you are my disciple." Chapter 54. Only Strength is Eternal. _1 Jiang Country, Qing Province, Zhoushan Mansion. A youth, a young man and old man, appeared out of thin air in a desolate and dilapidated courtyard, overgrown with weeds. "Is this my home? How did my home become like this?" The young man frowned slightly as he looked at the ruined courtyard before him. It was clear that this courtyard had been uninhabited for a long time. Xianxia couldn't help feeling a sense of ominous foreboding as he looked at the scene before him. He quickly circled the yard and then ran to the main entrance to confirm that this was indeed his home. Why would my parents move without reason? Even if they moved, they wouldn't just abandon the house like this. Xianxia muttered to himself in a low voice, but a wrenching pain surged in his heart, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably, and his dark red eyes glowed with a bloody light as if they were filled with undried fresh blood. Trying to suppress the throbbing pain in his heart, he ran to the street and asked passers-by what had happened to the Chu family. But the passers-by who saw his blood-red, dull eyes all reacted like startled rabbits, their faces changing drastically in fear as they ran away. Finally, a trembling vendor spoke out. "No one knows what sins the Chu family committed, but a year ago, the entire family was murdered. As far as I know, the case remains unsolved to this day." As the words fell, boom, Xianxia felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his brain seemed to explode. He stumbled and half knelt on the ground, vomiting a mouthful of fresh blood. "No, no, no. Impossible, absolutely impossible." He couldn't believe it, mumbling in denial as images of his kind parents, his clever and innocent little sister, floated through his mind. He refused to believe that his parents, his sister, Uncle Su, and Auntie had all died. But the reality was right in front of him, leaving him with no rationale for explanation. "Ah!" Xianxia let out a heart-wrenching howl to the sky, his eyes splitting with rage, and tears of blood streamed down his face, full of sorrow. His face twisted in pain, and a crescent moon-like red lotus appeared on his forehead, oozing with blood, allowing strands of bloody aura in his body to run wild, and behind him, the phantom of a three-headed, six-armed figure emerged in blood. Even more alarming was that his black hair turned white at a visible rate. As expected of the demonic spirit root, Merely baptized by the blood of the demon lord and without even starting cultivation or full integration, he can already stimulate the demonic blood lying dormant within. In the courtyard, the youth looked at Chu Chang's condition and chuckled lightly. Elder, won't he think that we had someone do this and thus harbor resentment towards us? The old man asked cautiously. What of resentment? Resentment gives motivation. With this child's potential, just a bit of diligent cultivation is needed, and within 100 years he can condense the demonic body. What I want is for him to condense the demonic body as fast as possible and to achieve great mastery in it, said the youth indifferently, always with a faint smile on his face. At this moment, Chu Chang'e, who had been half kneeling on the ground, suddenly stood up, gasping for air, his whole body trembling as he clenched his fists and came to the middle of the courtyard. His face was fierce and his eyes bloodshot as he stared at the youth and the old man and yelled, "Was it you who did this? Insolence!" Upon hearing Chu Chang's words, the old man immediately rebuked him, exuding a majestic aura that made Chu Chang'e feel as if he was carrying a great weight, and he knelt down with a thump, struggling to breathe. The youth waved his hand and looked at Chu Chang'e, saying, "Today, as your teacher, I'll teach you your first lesson. Don't be impulsive in anything you do. Think thrice before you act. What is the significance of you questioning me so impulsively? What difference does it make whether it was me or not me? Acts like yours are foolish. Aside from impotent rage, you cause yourself trouble and may ultimately lose your life for nothing, accomplishing nothing in the end. Remember, in this world, only your own strength is eternal. You have the demonic spirit root and are baptized with the blood of the demon lord, making you an exceptional talent for the demon path. What you need to do now is to bide your time, practice cultivation in secret, and once you have the strength, you begin investigating the truth and avenging your family. However, since it's your first offense as your mentor, I will forgive and forget," the youth said in an unhurried tone. "All right, now that you have visited home, come with me." As the words of the youth fell, the three of them turned into a divine rainbow and disappeared from the courtyard. Qingzhou Valley. Within a manner, hurry not when uninvolved, self-reliant when facing injustice, peace is best, but if foes rise, strike them first without surprise. Personal desire leads to woes, live content, then cultivate your soul. Lu Changxing was teaching the three-character classic to Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Wuyo, the little fellows of the household, using a wooden board. "My dear, it's time to eat. What exactly are you teaching them?" At this moment, Lu Miaoyun came to call Lu Changxing for dinner. They are 3 or 4 years old now, so I made up some things for them to read as a form of enlightenment. Lu Changxing got up with a smile, calling the group of little ones inside to have a meal. Lu Miaoyun also knew that although her husband came from a peasant family, he was always eager to learn and often read books. So it was normal for him to compile some phrases for enlightenment. However, the sentences for enlightenment sounded rather odd to her. She didn't pay it much attention. Her beautiful face beamed with a sweet smile. For enlightenment, there's a white deer mountain villa on Qingzhou Mountain, which has scholars hired from the secular world. You could send Pingan and the others there for their education. "You are busy with many things, my husband. Let me take care of this matter," Lu Miaoyun said. "Let's wait until they're a bit bigger, and send them all together next year." Lu Changxing nodded and said. The White Deer Mountain Villa was within Qingzhou Mountain, not too far away, making it feasible for the wives to take turns picking up and dropping off the children. After all, he didn't have much time to teach the children, and it was not certain he could teach them well. Moreover, Lu Changxing didn't have many expectations for the children. As long as they grew up safely and didn't cause trouble for him as their father, it was sufficient. He was not like most parents who wish for their sons to become dragons and their daughters to become phoenixes. Mainly because there wasn't much to hope for. With the system within him, he knew among these children, only the 7th and 17th ones had spiritual roots. The others didn't have spiritual roots and their futures lay within the secular world. With him as their father, these children would already be better off than 90% of ordinary people in the secular world, and hard work could only get them so far. Of course, he did have some expectations. He planned for these children to practice martial arts as they grew, to achieve martial Dao innate. Then, to marry and start businesses early, establishing a martial arts family in the secular world, to branch out the Lu family. Honestly, with him as their father to support them, these two tasks were not difficult. As for children like the 7th and 17th, Lu Changsheng actually didn't have high hopes either. After all, the quality of their spiritual roots was there for all to see. He was very clear about the hardships of cultivating with such spiritual roots. Lu Changsheng didn't want his children to struggle or suffer too much. Moderation was enough. After all, one can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. His Lu family was not in a rush for quick success, focusing instead on a long-term future. Lu Changxing didn't think much of it and went to the dining hall with Lu Miaoyun and the children for dinner. Chapter 55. Emerald Bamboo Rice, Metaphysics. _1 In the middle of the dining hall, a large revolving round table was set up to seat the entire family. Of course, the children were still young and did not sit at the table. When they grew older, or should there be more wives and concubines, there would not be enough room. Husband, this emerald bamboo spirit rice was cooked for 3 hours with spiritual fire by Shaoqing. Try it and see how it tastes, said Miaoyun as she carried a small wooden barrel crafted from emerald bamboo spirit wood to serve Changsheng a bowl of rice. As Changsheng sat down at the head of the table, Lu Miaoyun scooped a bowl of rice for him from a small jade-green bamboo barrel. Each grain of rice in the bowl was vividly green and crystal clear, resembling beads of agate or jade, emitting a refreshing bamboo fragrance that tantalized the appetite. Changsheng took a bite and immediately savored the lingering taste in his mouth. After 2 more bites, he commented, "This is indeed first-grade spirit rice. The flavor is truly good. You all should try it too," Changsheng said to his wives and concubines. This emerald bamboo spirit rice had just been delivered by the Lu family the day before. It was one of the benefits given to him for his promotion to middle-grade talisman master. After becoming a middle-grade talisman master, his basic benefits did not change much. In addition to the standard monthly allowance of 10 spirit stones, 30 caddies of spirit rice, and a bottle of yellow dragon elixir, he now received an extra 20 caddies of emerald bamboo spirit rice, a special product of the Lu family. The emerald bamboo spirit rice, with every grain resembling jade, not only contains rich spiritual energy and tastes sweet but also has the effect of nurturing the body, cleansing impurities and purifying flesh and blood over long-term consumption. Ordinary grains and vegetables inevitably leave impurities settled within the body. That is why cultivators usually consume spirit rice. Emerald bamboo spirit rice is a step above ordinary spirit rice and is considered first-grade spirit rice. Even for the Lu family, the annual yield is limited. Only certain members like the family elders and guest elders receive a set portion each month. This time, due to Changsheng's advancement to middle-grade talisman master and his marriage to Lu Miaoyun, the Lu family granted him an allowance of 20 caddies per month. Beyond the reward of emerald bamboo spirit rice, the other change was that by completing the monthly talisman-making tasks assigned by the Lu family, he could now earn an additional spirit stone bonus. Unlike before, where there were no rewards for completing the assigned tasks. The bonus wasn't much, but it wasn't insignificant either, currently amounting to 10 spirit stones. Moreover, for any extra talismans made beyond the quota, the Lu family agreed to purchase them at market price. This arrangement could be considered an indirect improvement in benefits, adding an incentive to perform better. Naturally, Changsheng had no objections to this and felt it was satisfactory. After all, if one were to account for it, the Lu family marrying off Lu Miaoyun to him, along with a young maidservant as part of the dowry, could also be seen as a reward. Having spent the past few days together, Changsheng grew quite fond of his young wife Miaoyun. Though she showed a bit of youthful temperament, she was very well behaved and sensible. Far from acting like a spoiled lady, she quickly became close with his other wives and concubines in the backyard, leading to a very harmonious relationship and displaying a degree of mature elegance. This pleased Changsheng greatly. Indeed, beauty does not surpass a resplendent heart. A virtuous wife supports my ambitions to soar high. For Changxing, in terms of taking a wife or concubines, looks or physical appearance were not his primary concern. Being above average in appearance was sufficient. Spiritual root aptitude and moral character were much more important. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. On hearing Changsheng's words, the wives and concubines began to eat. However, there wasn't much of the emerald bamboo spirit rice, just a small barrel's worth, and after Changxing took a generous serving for himself, the rest only took a small portion to taste. At that moment, Xiaoqing also brought out the remaining dishes on a tray. As Miao's maidservant, her skills were in spirit plant cultivation and cooking. Although she wasn't a spirit chef, her cooking skills were excellent and would be considered top-notch in the mundane world. Hence, upon coming with Miaoyun, she took on the role of a junior cook. There is a spot available, Xiaoqing, come sit and eat, Changxing said. We don't have that many rules here, he added, glancing at Xiaoqing. I'm not hungry. The clear, large eyes of Xiaoqing looked up at Lu Changxing, and her face showed a well-behaved smile as she chirped. Xiaoqing, if your husband tells you to sit down, then sit down, said Lu Miaoyun, who also knew that her own husband wasn't one for many formalities or complex rituals. She rose to her feet, pulling on Xiaoqing's arm, and had her sit down beside them. Thank you, master, said Xiaoqing in her crisp voice, after which she also filled a bowl with rice and began to eat a little at a time. That night, afterwards, husband, Lu Miaoyun, bedewed with fragrant sweat, lay weakly in Lu Changsheng's arms and said with shyness and timidity, Your concubine can't go on, let Xiaoqing come in to serve my lord. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng felt a warmth in his heart. His little charming wife was indeed considerate and well-behaved. It's all right, let your husband cherish Yuner first. Lu Changxing pinched his wife's cheek and then climbed on top again. Time flew quickly, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. Through the daily nutrition and nourishment of spirit rice and spiritual wine, Lu Changxing could clearly feel his physical condition had improved a level from before. However, regarding the 100 refinements treasure body art, there was still no progress. There was no helping it. Orthodox-level body refining techniques were just like that. Powerful as they may be, the threshold for cultivation was really high. It was very difficult to get started, requiring an extremely strong physical foundation. Lu Changsheng's body, not being drained by sensual pleasures, was already quite good, but it was not nearly enough to talk about a strong physical foundation. Thus, if he wanted to cultivate the 100 refinements treasure body art, he could only rely on slowly nurturing his body and enduring with time. He estimated that, at the current pace, it would take at least 2 or 3 years to get started. Unless, as he had thought before, he could take a shortcut through the system's lucky draw and obtain a magical treasure, using the condensation method in the 100 refinements treasure body art to integrate the treasure into his body and use it to nurture himself. But that was still a bit far off. His 21st child had just been born not long ago. To enter the draw, he would need at least 9 more children. Moreover, even after having 30 children, it was not certain whether the system would give out child money. But regardless of whether the system complemented or not, Lu Changsheng always remembered that having children was the most important. With the efforts of this past month, Lu Miaoyun had also successfully conceived. Although it was said that when a female cultivator becomes pregnant, it damages the vital essence and greatly hinders cultivation, the higher-ups in the Lu family were all delighted to hear it. Because in the eyes of the Lu family's upper echelons, the more children the two had, the more stable the marriage would be, and the more firmly Lu Changxing would be tied to the Lu family. Lu Changxing was also very happy. With Lu Miaoyun possessing a 7th-grade spiritual root, there was a great chance that their children would have spiritual roots. Especially with the example set by Chu Zhenjin, he had high expectations for the child in Lu Miaoyun's womb. After Lu Miaoyun became pregnant, the family head Lu Yuanding and the 4th elder both sent over nutritional supplements. In the cultivation world, there was a rather mystical belief. If a mother's environment during pregnancy was good, with ample nutrition and sufficient spiritual energy to nourish the fetus, then the probability of the child having a spiritual root and the quality of that root would be higher. Whether this was true or not was difficult to verify. But now that he had the means, Lu Changxing was willing to believe in this mysticism. He took out some of his spirit stones, enabling his wives and children to eat spirit rice and spirit vegetables every day. In the past, the 30 caddies of spirit rice provided by the Lu family every month were simply not enough for his entire household. He was the priority receiver. His wives and children could only occasionally eat spirit rice and vegetables. But now, there had been a small improvement in the perks and benefits provided by the Lu family. Coupled with the stable income from talisman sales through Hong Yi and the profits from Bullhead Mountain, Lu Changxing could finally afford to improve the dietary conditions for his wives and children. Chapter 56. My Demon Path Big Uncle. _1 This day. Lu Changxing received a letter. It was from Hong Yi, who wrote that someone he had sent out had learned of a piece of news in Zhoushan Mansion. A strange man had appeared in the Chu family courtyard. According to his investigation, there was a high probability that this man was Chu Chang'e, because someone there recognized Chu Chang's appearance. And this strange man appeared within the Chu family, asking people about what had happened there. So putting all these circumstances together, it was almost certain that this man was Chu Chang'e. But for some reason, whereas Chu Chang'e was once known for his refined and handsome scholar appearance, he had now transformed into something demonic and ominous, his eyes an extremely blood red, like a monster's. In the letter, Hong Yi said that after Chu Chang'e appeared, he disappeared without a trace, with no further news. He suspected that Chu Chang'e had also started on the path of cultivation, but it was of the demon path, and warned Lu Changxing to be careful. Demon path. After finishing the letter, Lu Changxing's eyes slightly narrowed. About what he knew, the cultivation world of Jiang country revered the heavenly sword sect. The major immortal sects, immortal cities, and cultivating clans were all seemingly righteous forces on the surface. Not one of them was from the demonic sects. Thus, in Jiang country, there was no fertile ground for the existence of demonic path cultivators. On the rare occasion there were some demon cultivators, they were often loose cultivators who had obtained a demonic inheritance. Lu Changxing never expected that his newfound uncle would take up the demon path. I wonder if this big uncle will come looking for Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Changxing thought to himself. He certainly wasn't worried about this big uncle of his finding Qingzhou Mountain. After all, a clear conscience fears no midnight knocking. Not only had he saved Chu Zhenjin, but their affection for each other was mutual. Could it be that this big uncle would come to cause him trouble? Even if Chu Chang'e did not understand the true situation and came to bother him, he would still need the ability to find him. In Lu Changxing's view, since Chu Zhenjin had an 8th grade spiritual root, even if her brother had a spiritual root, it likely wouldn't be much better. Moreover, in Jiang country, demon cultivators were akin to rats crossing the street, despised and pursued by everyone. Under these circumstances, how could he possibly come to Qingzhou Mountain to trouble him? Sigh, it seems my big uncle is also a tragic figure. Entering the path of cultivation, yet choosing the demon path, only to come home and learn of his family's destruction. Lu Changxing heaved a sigh and shook his head. He had a rather good impression of this big uncle of his, whom he had never met. Because over the past year and more, Chu Zhenjin had told him many things from their childhood. Among these, she often mentioned this inexpensive big uncle. According to Chu Zhenjin, her brother, though always studying and not one to smile or speak much, preferring to preach lofty principles, was not a rigid person. He was very affectionate towards his little sister and often helped her clean up her messes, even hiding them from their parents when she made mistakes. I won't tell Zhenjin about this for now, so she doesn't worry. If I have the capacity to help in the future, I might indeed lend a hand to this big uncle, of course, that is if he's still alive. As for now, forget about it. Lu Changxing took a deep breath and let it out long, not dwelling further on this matter. At present, he was merely a weak qi refinement 3rd-level cultivator, barely surviving in Qingzhou Mountain. This big uncle of his, he couldn't really help at the moment, nor did he want to trouble himself with caring. He then replied to Hong Yi with a letter, telling him not to inquire into Chu Chang's whereabouts anymore. Otherwise, if they got involved with a demon cultivator, it would be another hassle. That night. Afterwards. Chu Zenshin's cheeks were scarlet, her face flushed, her eyes dazed with enchantment as she slowly came back to her senses. She punched Lu Changxing with her small fist and scolded, "You're terrible. Forget about the three of us attending to you again, you only know how to bully people." Lu Miaoyun, on the other hand, was embarrassed like an ostrich tucking into its blanket, while Xiao Qing, though somewhat shy, was relatively more composed and continued to attend to Lu Changxing. "Heh, isn't it rare though? Look, your Yuner isn't saying anything," Lu Changxing chuckled. "Husband, please, no more, it's so embarrassing." Lu Miaoyun buried her head in the blanket, her voice muffled and breathy. Half a month later. "Husband, I've completed drawing breath into the body and have become a cultivator." This day, Chu Zhenjin, with a gold hairpin and pendant on her head, and dressed in a pink and white skirt, approached Lu Changxing with a face full of joy and excitement to report the good news. After spending more than a year in Qingzhou Mountain, the baby fat on her face had faded, her naive charm had retreated, and her tender figure had become much more alluring. On her pure and lovely face, a few traces of the charm of a wife and a mother have emerged. "My Zhenjin has broken through to Qi refinement first level?" Upon hearing this news, Lu Changxing was very happy. Since his wives possessed spiritual roots, he naturally hoped that they would all embark on the path of cultivation and accompany him for a bit longer. Leaving aside the future possibilities of becoming his supporters, at the very least, cultivation would benefit their health in many ways. The reason Chu Zhenjin had only now broken through to the first level of Qi refinement was that pregnancy, nurturing, and body recovery had delayed her cultivation. Otherwise, in Qingzhou Valley, with access to a second-grade spiritual vein and even without cultivation resources, she would have already achieved this breakthrough long ago. Looking at the little wife in front of him, whose every frown and smile was captivating, Lu Changxing couldn't help but pull her into his arms and said, "To celebrate my Zhenjin becoming a cultivator, let your husband reward you handsomely." Even though she was already a mother, Chu Zenshin's shy nature had not changed. Upon hearing these words, she immediately blushed deeply, her heart filled with embarrassment. Before she could say anything, she felt a warm kiss on her lips, followed by her body growing a bit weak. After a while, Chu Zenshin's voice became urgent, and she gasped, "Husband, let's return to the bedroom. It's fine, we're at home and there's no one around." Lu Changxing spoke softly. Soon after, accompanied by Chu Zenshin's coquettish stammering and rustling sounds, the small courtyard in the midst of autumn gained a touch of spring. In the following days, Lu Changxing devoted most of his energy to Chu Zhenjin. Since Chu Zhenjin had made a breakthrough to the first level of Qi refinement, and given that it had been 6 months since her last delivery, he naturally needed to take good care of her and start working towards the second child. In the blink of an eye, the end of the month arrived. Every month's end was the day the fourth elder would hold a lecture on talisman making. That day, after getting up and finishing his breakfast, Lu Changxing went to the fourth elder's residence. Since he had visited once before, he didn't need someone to guide the way. Lu Changxing confidently made his way through the corridors to reach a quiet courtyard. The courtyard walls were lined with green and jade-like Qingling bamboo. In the center was a small pavilion with 5 tables and chairs placed nearby. Currently, next to the pavilion, a stunning figure stood tall and straight. Her face was lovely, her eyes clear as water, dressed in a white skirt simple and elegant. Her lustrous black hair cascaded down her back, hanging softly to the waist of her snowy dress, in a striking contrast of black and white. Adorning only the simple white dress and shoes, her graceful figure and elegant bearing exuded a unique allure, carrying a breath of ethereal otherworldliness. The gentle breeze blew, and strands of sunlight fell upon her, illuminating her white dress. It bathed her in a layer of sacred golden radiance, making her appear all the more divine and noble. Seeing Lu Miaoge standing as if she had stepped out from a painting, Lu Changxing could not help but show a hint of admiration in his eyes. Perhaps it was because since the awakening of his memories, the first fairy he encountered in the cultivation realm was Lu Miaoge, giving him a special sentiment towards her in his heart. Previously, Upon seeing Lu Miaoge, due to the disparity in their statuses, Lu Changxing harbored thoughts but didn't feel much. Now, with the confidence given by the system and the rise in status of the Lu family, Lu Miaoge no longer seemed unattainable to him. Thus, every time he saw Lu Miaoge, he couldn't help but nurture thoughts he hadn't entertained before. Thoughts of conquering the celestial beauty, who seemed pure and unworldly, under his body to taste at will. Sigh, no wonder many people, once they have money and power, become morally corrupt. Lu Changxing shook his head internally. He had just recently married Lu Miaoyun, and now he was already harboring inappropriate thoughts toward his wife's cousin. Eldest Mississippi. Lu Changxing didn't dwell on such thoughts. He greeted Lu Miaoge with a smile. As a talisman master of the Lu family, Lu Miaoge would come to study talisman making with the fourth elder on this day every month. As for the other Lu family disciples who were learning talisman making, because they were apprentices, the fourth elder divided the lessons into two groups. The morning was for Lu Miaoge and Lu Changxing, and the afternoon was for the other Lu family disciples. Lu Changxing. Seeing Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoge greeted him with a light smile. Her smile was faint, as delicate as a snow lotus blooming on the mountain, quickly concealing her mirth to return to her previous serene and ethereal demeanor. This made Lu Changxing silently think to himself that the two sisters were quite similar in this respect. Neither of them liked to smile much, but when they did, it was very beautiful. He didn't go over to chat or anything. Even if he harbored thoughts about Lu Miaoge, it wasn't as if he could just go up and pursue her. One reason was that his current status was not suitable for pursuing her, and besides, one doesn't chase after a girl, one attracts her. Lu Changxing sat down at a table and chair on the side, waiting for the fourth elder to arrive. Chapter 57. Taking a talisman-making class with the young miss. When it wasn't long before the fourth elder arrived in the courtyard. Her hair was coiled elegantly atop her head, with streaks of silver among the black, and she was dressed in a bluish-brown dress, making her look every bit the dignified and graceful lady of high status. Grandmother. Great-aunt. Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge immediately made a formal bow with hands clasped to the fourth elder. There's no need for so much ceremony, please sit. The fourth elder showed a warm and kind face as she waved her hand. Then turning to the two, she spoke, Changxing Miaoge, show me the talismans you've been practicing most recently. Upon hearing this, both brought out their talisman-making tools and began drawing talismans. Lu Changxing was still working on the fire cloud talisman he had first revealed. After all, when he had first revealed himself to be a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, his success rate had only been about 10% to 20%, so naturally he still needed to practice. The fourth elder glanced at the talismans being drawn. Seeing Lu Changxing's steady wrist and confident strokes as he sketched the fire cloud talisman, she couldn't hide a look of surprise. Following, under the watchful eyes of the fourth elder, Lu Changxing successfully completed the drawing of the fire cloud talisman. Changxing, you must have a success rate of around 60% to 70% when drawing the fire cloud talisman now, right? After watching Lu Changxing's progress with the fire cloud talisman, the fourth elder exclaimed with a face lit up by a trace of pleasant surprise. Lu Miaoge, who was at the side drawing her talisman, trembled slightly in her fair wrist upon hearing this, resulting in the failure of the talisman she was working on. Then she turned her bright eyes towards Lu Changxing. Her delicate face expressed clear astonishment. She was well aware that it was just 2 months ago that Lu Changxing had achieved the status of a first-grade middle-grade talisman master. In just 2 months, he had improved his success rate with the first-grade middle-grade fire cloud talisman to 60% to 70%. Such talent in talisman making was truly terrifying. She couldn't help recalling 3 years ago when Lu Changxing became a talisman-making apprentice, and she had accompanied Uncle Fu to assess him. She had recognized then that Lu Changxing's talent for talisman making was higher than her own. But she had never expected Lu Changxing's talisman-making talent was even greater than she had thought, so much greater. Without anyone's guidance, in just over 3 years, he had become a middle-grade talisman master. Now, under the mentorship of the fourth elder, the Fire Cloud Talisman, which originally only had a success rate of 20%, had improved in just 1 month to a staggering 60% to 70% success rate. This progress was simply terrifying. Even though she was usually as calm and poised as water and was already trying to draw superior grade talismans to challenge for the superior grade talisman master title, in that moment, in front of Lu Changxing, she couldn't help feeling a sense of despondency and frustration. She pursed her lips, put aside her feelings of loss and defeat, and took out a new piece of talisman paper to start drawing again. It's all thanks to your guidance last time, grandmother. I've been practicing hard at home to achieve this success rate. Lu Changxing answered with a nod. He was unaware that his behavior had caused Lu Miaoge to feel frustrated. This display of talent with the Fire Cloud Talisman was something he had planned in advance and was part of his strategy. He wanted to make use of the pretext of the fourth elder's guidance to accelerate the unveiling of his own talents in talisman making. Excellent, excellent, that's very good. Grandmother can see that you're fairly proficient with the Fire Cloud Talisman. It's just during the transitions, the drawing of the talisman lines is not quite smooth enough with spiritual power. However, with more practice and familiarity in your daily routine, that should improve. The fourth elder said, praising Lu Changxing after hearing his words. She continued to address Lu Changxing. Then today, grandmother will teach you how to draw the Windwalking Talisman. The Windwalking Talisman, like the Fire Cloud Talisman, is a first-grade middle-grade talisman. In terms of difficulty, it's slightly more challenging than the Fire Cloud Talisman. Thank you, grandmother. Lu Changxing spoke respectfully. He had no preference over which talisman to learn or practice, and simply followed the fourth elder's arrangements. One reason was that he did not care much. Another was that it was part of the terms of the spiritual contract with the Lu family. He had to follow the Lu family's arrangements and practice the respective talismans. The Windwalking Talisman is different from the Fire Cloud Talisman. It emphasizes softness, not just in the brushwork but also in the output of spiritual power, carrying a sense of roundness. A critical point with the Windwalking Talisman is that every time you reach a turning point, the brushwork should be light and smooth, and the spiritual power must be continuously bounced out in a gentle stream. The fourth elder explained the essentials of the Windwalking Talisman to Lu Changxing. She then drew a Windwalking Talisman on the spot, allowing Lu Changxing to sense the fluctuations of spiritual power on it and to imitate the lines drawn upon it. Yes, grandmother. Seeing this, Lu Changxing nodded and picked up a stack of blank papers from the table to familiarize himself with the talisman lines. When starting to draw a new talisman, it is common to practice drawing talisman lines on blank paper first, before trying to create it on real talisman paper. Starting directly with talisman paper would generally be wasteful, as failure was almost certain at that stage. Of course, for someone exceptional like Lu Changxing, it was a different case. But in front of the fourth elder, he naturally still presented himself as earnestly learning. Then, the fourth elder turned her attention towards Lu Miaoge, who was in the process of talisman making, only to see that Lu Miaoge's talisman had failed again. Knowing that Lu Miaoge was still unfamiliar with the talisman she was drawing, the speaker outlined the key points. Miaoge, the golden light barrier talisman values firmness as the main aspect, with softness as a supplement. The strokes must be soft, yet firm, and the output of spiritual power must also be strong and powerful. When you make the first stroke, your touch and spiritual power should be like cotton wrapped around iron. At the first turn of the talisman line, you need to add a bit more gathering feel, while your spiritual power should release. After the 9th turn, the power must flow continuously without end. Making talismans with higher grades of talismans becomes more difficult and complex. The process of beginning, continuing, turning, and concluding every stroke and line follows very strict standards. Just the technique of making the initial stroke includes a great deal of specifics, such as being robust and powerful, firm yet soft, soft yet firm, a combination of strength and gentleness, and so on, extremely complex. Like the golden light barrier talisman that Lu Miaoge was drawing, it is a superior grade first-grade talisman, very complex, and a notch above middle-grade talismans. Yes, fourth grandmother. Hearing this, Lu Miaoga nodded, her delicate features showing a concentrated expression as she continued to lean over and draw the talisman. But halfway through, the talisman paper emitted blue smoke, signifying failure. Miaoga, when you were tracing the talisman lines, your stroke was too forceful, which clashed with the spiritual power, leading to failure. Come, feel my spiritual power, the force. The fourth elder pointed out the mistake. She immediately took hold of Lu Miaoga's hand and slowly drew out the golden light barrier talisman. Lu Changsheng also glanced over in their direction. He could see that the fourth elder was indeed skilled in talisman making. At the very least, she was very familiar with the golden light barrier talisman. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to guide someone like this in drawing a talisman. Miaoga, using that sensation, try again. After the fourth elder led Lu Miaoga through the completion of the golden light barrier talisman, she spoke. Yes, grandmother. Lu Miaoga nodded gently and then tried drawing it again. But she failed again halfway through the process. Seeing this scene, the fourth elder didn't say anything. She simply encouraged, "It's okay, just practice more, familiarize yourself with it a few times, and you'll be fine." For a talisman master, this was quite normal. If it was possible to succeed after just a few attempts, then becoming a talisman master wouldn't be that difficult. After a while, seeing that Lu Changxing was also nearly familiar with drawing the windwalking talisman, the fourth elder said to him, "Come, Changxing, draw a windwalking talisman for me to see." "Yes, grandmother." Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing also began to demonstrate drawing the windwalking talisman. But he failed as well around 1/5 of the way through. He was talented, but he was not freakishly so. If he succeeded after only 1 or 2 attempts, it would have been too astonishing and potentially problematic. Your hand is very stable and your strokes are steady, but just now, your spiritual power was a bit rushed. At this step, your hand needs a touch of looseness, and your spiritual power should gently envelop the stroke. Come, feel my spiritual power, the force. After watching Lu Changxing finish drawing, the fourth elder remarked. She immediately approached and took hold of Lu Changsheng's hand, guiding him stroke by stroke as they slowly completed the windwalking talisman together. Although there were concerns about physical contact between men and women, for the fourth elder, Lu Changxing was just a junior and her granddaughter's future husband, and so such concerns were not considered important. Through this process, Lu Changxing could clearly feel the force and flow of spiritual power coming from the fourth elder's palm. At this step, your hand should be loose, with your spiritual power enveloping the stroke, imparting a sense of bounce, a light flick of the wrist, finishing the rest in one go. Try again. In a kindly tone, the fourth elder instructed Lu Changxing, then let go of his hand. All right, grandmother. Lu Changxing nodded, but did not start drawing immediately. Instead, he took out a gourd from his storage bag and took a sip of liquid before continuing. Inside was white jade 100 flowers wine, which had the effect of restoring spiritual power and calming the mind. It was helpful for his talisman making. He naturally didn't need the wine to calm his mind, but it was necessary to help restore his spiritual power. The fourth elder made no comment on this. She knew that Lu Changxing was only at the 3rd level of Qi cultivation and couldn't draw too many first-grade middle-grade talismans without relying on spiritual wine for power restoration. Then, under the fourth elder's watchful eye, Lu Changxing managed to draw about a quarter of the talisman before failing. Your spiritual power didn't fully envelop the stroke. To be focused on a point, try a few more times. After watching, the fourth elder gave her feedback. And so it went. Under the fourth elder's tutelage, a morning passed. That morning, neither Lu Changxing nor Lu Miaoga succeeded in creating any new talismans. But they had at least gained an introductory understanding of these types of talismans and grasped their essentials. Next, they just needed to go back and practice more, to become more familiar. Chapter 58. Chu Zenshin's second child, Breakthrough Elixir. _1 time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. Chu Zhenjin, who had been receiving special attention from Lu Changxing, ran to him and said, "Husband, I think I am pregnant." "Pregnant? Let me see." Lu Changxing, hearing this, was overjoyed and placed his head against Chu Zhenjin's belly. Of course, at this time, there were no fetal movements yet. But as a cultivator, Lu Changxing could faintly sense the new life being nurtured within her stomach. "Good, good, good, indeed you are pregnant. Come here, Zhenjin, let your husband give you a kiss." Seeing that Chu Zhenjin was pregnant, Lu Changsheng's mood soared. He caressed his delicate wife's cheek and kissed her tender lips fiercely. In the courtyard, there were other sisters present. They couldn't help but cover their mouths and giggle at the scene, leaving Chu Zhenjin blushing. Feeling slightly embarrassed and annoyed, she gave her husband a playful punch. Her fair and charming face was flushed red with shyness, utterly irresistible. Yet this hint of girlish shyness, coupled with Chu Zhenjin's charm as a wife and mother-to-be, was both pure and enticing. It set Lu Changsheng's heart ablaze, making him wish he could take his lovely wife right then and there. However, seeing how happy her husband was, Chu Zhenjin's blushing face also revealed a smile of pure happiness and contentment. Now that both Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin were pregnant, Lu Changxing felt extremely contented, feeling that life was becoming ever more promising. He looked forward eagerly to the birth of his children by the two delicate wives. He also thought of the two beloved concubines who hadn't been pregnant yet, and a maidservant with a spiritual root. But since Lu Miaoyun was only a little over a month pregnant, he wasn't in a hurry for the maidservant Xiaoqing to become pregnant. After all, if a maidservant became pregnant around the same time as his wife, it wouldn't be quite appropriate. It might seem like a competition for favor. Although Lu Changxing himself didn't really care. But after all, they were in the Lu family, and it was better to be cautious. Therefore, he planned to focus his attention on the two favored concubines next. Regarding these two concubines, Lu Changxing was also somewhat curious. If they were to get pregnant and have children, he wondered if the children's hair and eye colors would resemble his own or their mother's. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the month, the day the fourth elder taught talisman making. When the fourth elder inspected the progress of Lu Miaoge and Lu Changxing on their talismans, Lu Changxing directly took out a windwalking talisman he had drawn and said to the fourth elder, "Grandmother, I successfully made the windwalking talisman yesterday." "What? You made the windwalking talisman?" The fourth elder, upon hearing this, was initially stunned. Then, looking at the talisman in Lu Changxing's hand, her face lit up with delight. She hadn't expected that in just a month, Lu Changxing would have succeeded in making the windwalking talisman. You must know that the most difficult part of talisman making is the first step, moving from nothing to something. Once the first step is successful, the subsequent process from 1 to 10 becomes much simpler. Lu Miaoge, standing beside them, also looked at Lu Changxing with immense surprise upon hearing this. These past 2 months, she had hardly made any significant progress on her golden light barrier talisman. Though the talisman she was practicing was a superior grade talisman, back when she was at Lu Changxing's current level, it took her roughly 3 months to succeed with the golden light insignia, which was equivalent to the windwalking talisman in difficulty. Yet now, Lu Changxing had managed to successfully make the windwalking talisman in just 1 month. Lu Miaoge bit her lip gently, feeling somewhat disheartened by the blow. In talisman making, her talent was already considered quite good. Otherwise, among the many Lu family disciples, she wouldn't have been the only talisman master, and she was even on the verge of breaking through to become a first-grade superior talisman master. The fourth elder had told her that she had a real gift for talisman making, with the potential to become a second-grade talisman master one day. But at this moment, her formerly pride-worthy talent in talisman making was completely crushed by Lu Changxing. She could already foresee the day when she would be surpassed by him. The fourth elder took the windwalking talisman from Lu Changxing's hands. Her fingers traced it inch by inch, feeling both the strokes and the flow of spiritual power within it. "You don't have any issues with drawing the lines for the talisman. Your grip and drawing are exceptionally steady, which shows a rare talent," she said. However, regarding spiritual power, there's a lot left to be desired in terms of proficiency and stability. For instance, this particular point here has a clear issue. Any carelessness could lead to failure, and then there's... The fourth elder provided a detailed critique of Lu Changsheng's talisman, pointing out the specific issues. She then said, "Changsheng, draw another windwalking talisman for me to see." "Yes, grandmother." Lu Changsheng responded and took out a sheet of talisman paper to begin drawing. However, not even halfway through, the talisman started to give off blue smoke, another failure. At this point, the spiritual power must be wrapped tightly around the brush strokes, but after making a turn, it must be released immediately, with a spring in the motion, the fourth elder said out loud, indicating for Lu Changsheng to continue. After that, Lu Changsheng failed again. He had just started yesterday, so his success rate for making talismans should be at most 10%. Naturally, he couldn't show himself to be too skilled. Under the guidance of the fourth elder, Lu Changsheng failed 2 more times. Upon seeing this, the fourth elder didn't say much. She simply comforted him, "It's okay, you're just a bit nervous, and you have just started. Familiarize yourself with it, and you'll be fine. Come, grandmother will guide you through drawing a talisman once more." Afterward, she held Lu Changsheng's hand again and helped him draw the windwalking talisman. "Thank you, grandmother. Changsheng will definitely work hard and not disappoint you," Lu Changsheng said to the fourth elder. "Good child, I am already very satisfied with your performance. Grandmother believes that as long as you work hard, you will surely become a second-rank talisman master in the future," the fourth elder said kindly. She was very satisfied with her grandson-in-law Lu Changsheng. Not only did he have exceptional talent in talisman making, but he was also very steady and treated her granddaughter well. The only fault she could find was that he had too many wives and children. He spent too much time thinking about marrying and having offspring. In her opinion, if Lu Changsheng could concentrate all his efforts on talisman making and focus on the talisman path, he could go much further in the future. By the way, Changsheng, you've been at the 3rd level of Qi refinement for a while now, haven't you? Suddenly, the fourth elder turned to Lu Changsheng and asked. "Yes, grandmother. I reached the peak of the 3rd level in Qi refinement 8 months ago. But as you know, my spiritual root is only 9th grade, Lu Changsheng responded, unable to suppress a wry smile. He had been at the peak of 3rd level in Qi refinement 8 months prior. He had not slacked in his cultivation since then, but he had felt no loosening of his bottleneck. With lower-grade spiritual roots, each bottleneck was a barrier. If you need it, grandmother can apply to the family for a breakthrough elixir for you, the fourth elder said after a slight pause. The transition from the 3rd to the 4th level of Qi refinement marks the progression from the early stages to the middle stages, a significant hurdle. The poorer the quality of the spiritual root, the harder it is to break through. In such cases, apart from relying on time to grind through, one can also seek help from breakthrough elixir medicines to overcome the bottleneck. "Thank you, grandmother, but I would still like to continue trying to break through on my own," Lu Changsheng said, politely refusing. He was frustrated by the bottleneck but not desperate to break through it. For now, he did not wish to rely on elixir medicines. His reasoning was simple. If he used a breakthrough elixir to advance from the 3rd to the 4th level in Qi refinement, the difficulty of moving from the 6th to the 7th level would increase. If at the 6th level he again used a breakthrough elixir, it would make the foundation establishment even more challenging later on. Occasional help from elixir medicines like the Yellow Dragon elixir was fine as they had no side effects. However, using breakthrough elixirs that stimulated one's potential to advance could have an impact. For most people, if they weren't considering foundation establishment, using breakthrough elixirs wouldn't be a big deal. But Lu Changsheng's focus was on the future, not the present. Since he wasn't in a rush to break through, he preferred to try and make it on his own for as long as possible. If he truly couldn't progress and needed help, then he would consider using elixir medicines. When the fourth elder heard Lu Changsheng's refusal, she was slightly surprised. But she quickly smiled and praised him. "Good, it is spirited of you. If you encounter any problems with your cultivation, feel free to come to grandmother." Lu Miaoge, who was standing nearby, also revealed a touch of surprise in her beautiful eyes upon hearing these words. It was known that breakthrough elixirs were extremely precious. One for breaking through to the middle stages of qi refinement was worth hundreds of spirit stones and was scarce. In the Lu family, it required contributions to exchange for one. Now that the fourth elder had offered to apply for one on behalf of Lu Changxing and he had declined, expressing a desire to rely on his own effort to break through. For someone with a 9th grade spiritual root, overcoming a bottleneck was far from easy. Nonetheless, she said nothing. Instead, her impression of Lu Changxing deepened somewhat. She felt that he was very different from the person she had formed an image of. After that, the fourth elder shared some knowledge about talisman making with Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge and told them it was about time to return home. Miss seemed to look at me in a somewhat unusual way just now. As they walked away from the fourth elder's residence, Lu Changxing surveyed Lu Miaoge's graceful retreating figure, his eyebrows slightly raised. He naturally didn't think that this young lady had taken a liking to him. Could it be that she was struck by the talent in talisman making I've displayed recently? Lu Changxing suddenly conjectured. He thought to himself, if that's the case, then this young lady isn't as detached and indifferent as she appears on the surface, and not untouched by worldly concerns. Indeed, she is not a true immortal. How could she be free from worldly desires? They all have emotions and desires. The second young lady also seemed cold and noble on the outside, but her true character didn't match that at all. Lu Changxing chuckled softly, not taking it too to heart, and headed home. Chapter 59. 8th grade spiritual root, 6th lottery draw _1 time flew by. That day, Lu Changxing's 22nd child was born. Like most children, he was without a spiritual root. Now, for a child to be without spiritual root, Lu Changxing had grown accustomed to it, completely without expectation. If the child had a spiritual root, it would be a pleasant surprise. However, surprises like that tend to arrive so suddenly, so unexpectedly. 1 month later, when Lu Changxing's 23rd child was born, he was seized by a deeply mystical tremor. It was the tremor of the child having a spiritual root. Moreover, this particular tremor gave him an indescribable sense of mystery throughout his body. It gave Lu Changxing a premonition. His spiritual root had advanced. With the addition of this child's spiritual root, his own had risen from a 9th grade to an 8th grade. At that instant, a system notification sound rang out. Congratulations to the host for the birth of 3 children with spiritual roots, receiving 1 lottery draw opportunity. Good, good, good. The tremor from the improvement in spiritual root and the system notification sound filled Lu Changxing with immense joy and excitement. He had not expected that, with no expectations whatsoever, this child would possess a spiritual root and elevate his own to the 8th grade. And at the same time, the system had come through with a bonus of child money. Such unexpected and surprising good fortune, or really 2 instances of such surprises, filled him with unstoppable excitement and joy. Husband, what's wrong? His wives, unaware of what had happened to Lu Changxing, didn't understand why he suddenly appeared so joyful. Lu Changxing realized that he had gotten a bit carried away with excitement, mainly because the surprise had come so unexpectedly, so suddenly, that he hadn't managed to keep his composure. An issue with talisman that had troubled me for quite a while just suddenly became clear to me, so I got a little excited for a moment, he said with a smile. Congratulations, husband. Congratulations, husband. Congratulations, husband. Hearing his words, several of his wives also showed smiling faces, voicing their congratulations, without any suspicion or further thought. What's there to congratulate? Our Lu family has been blessed with another son. That's the true cause for celebration, said Lu Changxing, waving his hand. Internally, he couldn't help but think that he still needed to temper his state of mind further, to be unshaken even if Mount Tai crumbled before him. Otherwise, if such situations became more frequent, it would be easy for others to detect something amiss. He walked into the birthing room, immediately spotting the midwife holding a swaddle. Congratulations, young master, it's a girl, the midwife said to Lu Changxing. A girl? That's good too, considering the previous two were boys, Lu Changxing remarked, unfazed. He didn't have a strong preference for sons or daughters. He took the child from the midwife's arms. Perhaps because he had become a cultivator, had been practicing the immortal beauty technique, and due to the improved conditions for the child's mother during pregnancy, the child looked much cuter than an ordinary newborn, not as wrinkled. Even knowing that this child possessed a spiritual root, Lu Changxing was very happy inside, but he didn't show it too obviously or distinctly at that moment. After looking at the child for a while, Lu Changxing left and went to his study. The child's birth this time has prompted the system to give child money, indicating that the achievement of having a number of children with spiritual roots is different from the achievement of total number of children, he thought to himself. That's to be expected. The difficulty of having children with spiritual roots is noticeably higher. I wonder what the next number will be, 5? Or perhaps 10? Lu Changxing pondered. He didn't dwell on it. If he fixated on such things, setting expectations in his heart would only make it easier to be disappointed. It was better to let things take their natural course. After all, even if the system didn't bestow child money, he would still want this child. Immediately, Lu Changxing began the part he was most looking forward to. System, I want to draw a prize. Instantly, a pale red virtual prize wheel emerged. I wonder what I'll get this time, hopefully a magical treasure. Gazing at the prize wheel before him, Lu Changxing took a deep breath. Due to the 100 Refinements treasure body art, he now had a particularly strong desire for magical treasures. He wanted to see if he could get a magical treasure directly from the system wheel to practice the 100 Refinements treasure body art. After all, cultivation techniques could give him all kinds of strange and wonderful abilities. But as long as a magical treasure was decent enough, it would suffice for practicing the 100 Refinements treasure body art. Start the draw. With a thought, golden light began to spin on the pale red wheel. After waiting 5 seconds, the wheel gradually slowed down. Under Lu Changxing's slightly nervous and anticipatory gaze, the golden light settled on other. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the goo insect peach blossom goo. The reward has been sent to the system space, and the host can check it at any time. A pattern resembling a butterfly with 2 peach blossom petals emerged from the big wheel, accompanied by a system notification sound. A goo insect peach blossom goo? Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised to see this reward. He wasn't too disappointed at not getting the cultivation technique or magical treasures he wanted. After all, he had been disappointed so many times before. A lottery drawing like this, how could it possibly go according to one's wishes? The days ahead were long, and there would be plenty of chances to draw prizes. As long as he worked hard, he would eventually get the rewards he wanted. He looked at the peach blossom goo in the system space. Goo insect, peach blossom goo, quality, sky spirit goo. Description, a peculiar goo created by the peach blossom Immortal, a cultivator of goo arts. It can improve the host's skin and enhance their charisma, creating an extremely attractive appearance to the opposite sex, and it can also increase the host's fortune in romantic affairs. Lu Changxing didn't know much about goo insects. He only knew that among the various arts of cultivation, there were factions similar to beast taming, such as poison goo, corpse refining, ghost nurturing, and so on. He hadn't really looked into this particular area. But, trusting the system and seeing the word sky spirit goo along with the description of its effects, he felt that this peach blossom goo was not ordinary. It was definitely an exceptional goo insect. First the immortal beauty technique, and now this peach blossom goo? Does this mean that in the future, I'm destined to rely on my looks to live a life of ease? Lu Changxing smacked his lips. Having experienced the changes brought on by the immortal beauty technique, he was quite looking forward to the effects of the peach blossom goo and thought it was very good. After all, he had been practicing the immortal beauty technique for over 3 years to achieve such handsomeness. Now with the peach blossom goo added to the mix, wouldn't he be the dream of millions of fairies in the cultivation world? Especially since the appearance enhancement from the peach blossom goo was targeted at the opposite sex. Not only was it targeted at the opposite sex, but it could also enhance one's romantic fortune. Handsome, with good romantic luck, wouldn't that be a killer combination? It was simply made to measure for a future where he would be surrounded by wives and consorts, the nemesis of fairies and witches. Romantic fortune. Although the concept of fate is mentioned in the cultivation world, it is nebulous and mysterious, with no detailed explanations. Most books only mention that some people are born with great fate and can turn misfortune into blessing in whatever they do. They might even stumble upon treasures when leaving their homes, charging ahead on the path of cultivation, advancing triumphantly and rapidly. Even though this peach blossom goo can't improve a person's overall fate, it can enhance someone's romantic fortune. I wonder if with this goo, my future cultivation journey will be blessed with continued romantic success? When the time comes, I should look into more about fate and information on goo insects. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. Although he enjoyed reading various books, he only had surface-level knowledge about the concept of fate and topics like goo insects, which were considered unorthodox. Now that he had obtained this peach blossom goo, he was thinking of delving deeper into related knowledge. Without further thought, Lu Changsheng willed it and extracted the peach blossom goo from the system space. Chapter 60, Peach Blossom Goo. _1 As Lu Changsheng extracted the peach blossom goo, a butterfly with wings that resembled two pinkish-white peach petals appeared out of thin air in front of him. This peach blossom goo was only the size of a thumb with a faint pink glow emanating from its delicate and tender body. Held in hand, it was extremely soft and slippery, just like holding two peach petals with hardly any weight. From its body, strands of refreshing and ethereal peach blossom fragrance wafted, invigorating the soul. Lu Changsheng, holding the peach blossom goo in his hand, could clearly feel a kind and mysterious connection with it, much like he did when he acquired the 9 Netherhound. No need for any measures to tame or subdue, the system directly helped him tame and subdue it. And through the system, he knew that to control and command this goo creature, he needed to refine it. The method of refinement was also quite simple. Feed it with a drop of essence blood first, then gradually refine the goo with mental spirit and spiritual power. Having understood the basic usage of the peach blossom goo, Lu Changsheng didn't hesitate. He forced out a droplet of blood from his fingertip and fed it to the peach blossom goo. The peach blossom goo had a sesame-sized mouthpiece that slowly licked when it saw the droplet of blood. After a moment, the peach blossom goo had consumed all of the essence blood. Lu Changsheng then began to wrap the peach blossom goo in spiritual power, invading its body and will, refining it. For many goo cultivators, refining a goo worm was an extremely dangerous affair. Although the goo worm did not possess much intelligence, it still had life as a being and an inherent will to survive. Facing the cultivator's refining, it naturally resisted instinctively. Even some fierce and tyrannical goo worms would backlash against the refiner. However, this peach blossom goo was obtained by Lu Changsheng through a system lottery, and there was already a slight intimate connection between them, so this problem didn't exist. Under his spiritual power refinement, the peach blossom goo not only did not resist in the slightest, but it even actively cooperated, allowing Lu Changsheng's spiritual power to enter its body to be refined. Lu Changsheng didn't have to exhaust his mental spirit to suppress the will of the peach blossom goo. An hour later. Phew! Lu Changsheng looked at the partially translucent peach blossom goo in his hand and exhaled a long breath. It wasn't that the refinement was complete, but rather his spiritual power was exhausted, and he needed to rest and recover it. If this peach blossom goo had not been obtained through the system lottery, with my current cultivation strength, I would not have been able to refine it at all, nor would it have been possible to succeed in the refinement. Not to mention there might have been a backlash, injuring myself. He couldn't help but shake his head. For the past hour, he had used all his spiritual power to refine the peach blossom goo. Yet his spiritual power was depleted, and he had refined less than 1/10 of the peach blossom goo. Bear in mind, this was while the peach blossom goo was fully cooperative. If the peach blossom goo had offered even a slight resistance, he would have encountered an insurmountable challenge in refining it. However, this also shows that this peach blossom goo is even more extraordinary. It is not a goo that an ordinary energy refinement cultivator can come into contact with, and only a cheat like me, with the help of the system, could obtain something far beyond one's own stage, he mused. Now is a good time to restore my spiritual power and see what changes have occurred after my spiritual root advanced to 8th grade. Lu Changxing began to sit in meditation, cultivating and restoring his spiritual power. He also wanted to see what changes had taken place after his spiritual root progressed from 9th grade to 8th grade. An hour went by. Lu Changxing opened his eyes. After the meditation, he found that his cultivation speed had not significantly increased after his 9th grade spiritual root advanced to 8th grade. It had only improved by about 10%. The cultivation speed of an 8th grade spiritual root is almost 30% faster than that of a 9th grade spiritual root. With the previous addition from Xiaoqi and Xiaoshi, my spiritual root was already close to 8th grade. So now with this daughter's boost, even though my spiritual root has advanced from 9th grade to 8th grade, the improvement isn't large. A cultivation speed increase of about 10% also implies that this child's spiritual root is a lower grade. Spiritual root, probably similar to Xiao Shiqi's, a 7th grade or 8th grade spiritual root, Lu Changxing silently contemplated. But he didn't feel any sense of loss. After all, whether it was a 9th grade or 8th grade spiritual root, they both belonged to the lower grade spiritual roots. The difference between the two wasn't too significant. Thus, advancing from 9th grade to 8th grade spiritual root was unlikely to bring a dramatic qualitative change. However, Chuangxing saw the advancement of his spiritual root from 9th grade to 8th grade as a milestone. At the very least, he had taken the first step. The first step in upgrading the spiritual root. In the future, as long as more children possess a spiritual root, his spiritual root would eventually be able to advance step by step, ascending from a lower grade spiritual root to middle grade, then upper grade. Even the legendary Earth Spirit Root, Heavenly Spiritual Root. Spiritual roots are not only related to the speed of cultivation but also to the bottlenecks in cultivation. After my 9th grade spiritual root advanced to the 8th grade, I wonder how much it will help me break through the bottleneck at the 4th level energy refinement. Lu Changxing couldn't help but think to himself. Beyond influencing the speed of cultivation, the grade of a spiritual root also affects the cultivation bottlenecks. The better the spiritual root, the weaker the bottleneck. Like now, he was stuck at the bottleneck of breaking through from the 3rd level energy refinement to the 4th level. But with a middle grade spiritual root, this bottleneck might not even exist. Previously, Lu Changxing read in a book that for spiritual roots of the level of Earth Spirit Root and Heavenly Spiritual Root, there is no such thing as a bottleneck from the entire Qi refinement all the way to the foundation establishment stage. It's a completely unobstructed journey of cultivation, and in the future, it would be possible to break through to the core formation stage. And to condense a superior gold core. Lu Changxing didn't continue to dwell on these thoughts as they were still far too distant from him. He rose from his study and went into the practice room to continue his cultivation and replenish his spiritual power. The next day, Lu Changxing got up and went to the library at Qingzhou Villa, searching for books on the topics of destiny and the way of the Gu. However, within the Lu family, there were no books on the concept of destiny, and the Gu way was also not detailed in any of the books. Only in an ancient tome did he find a brief introduction to Gu insects. For example, the quality of Gu insects was divided into mundane Gu, spirit Gu, mysterious spirit Gu, earth spirit Gu, heavenly spirit Gu, and immortal Gu, 6 levels in total. With immortal Gu being of a level like that of the true spirit bloodline in demon beasts, it naturally belonged to the realm of legend. Even the earth spirit Gu and heavenly spirit Gu were the stuff of legends, extremely rare. This gave Lu Changxing a rough idea of just how precious the peach blossom Gu was. It was probably close to a 9 netherhound with a heavenly grade bloodline. Furthermore, Gu insects can continuously transform and grow, divided from low to high into first transformation, second transformation, third transformation, fourth transformation, fifth transformation. Corresponding to the cultivator's stages of Qi refinement realm, foundation establishment stage, core formation stage, nascent soul stage, divinity transformation stage. Like the peach blossom goo that Lu Changsheng acquired, it naturally belonged to the first transformation. In the time that followed, besides daily meditation and cultivation, talisman making, Lu Changsheng also found time to refine and fuse with the peach blossom goo. Thinking of quickly assimilating the peach blossom goo to see its exact effects. After all, Lu Changsheng was quite looking forward to improving himself and his peach blossom luck. Half a month later, Lu Changsheng finally fully assimilated the peach blossom goo. At this moment, he felt a strange connection with the peach blossom goo in front of him. It was as if the peach blossom goo had become a part of his body. At the same time, he came to understand the peach blossom goo in detail. Peach blossom goo feeds on peach blossom luck. The more prosperous the host's peach blossom luck, the faster the peach blossom goo would grow. With every growth and transformation of the peach blossom goo, the host's peach blossom luck would become increasingly vibrant. However, the growth and transformation of the peach blossom goo would be impacted and limited by its master. If the master has not broken through to the foundation establishment stage, then no matter how much peach blossom luck the goo consumes, it cannot advance to second transformation. Currently, the peach blossom goo possesses 3 effects. The first 2 are the passive effects introduced in the system explanation before. It can subtly improve the host's physique, making the skin more radiant and the aura stand out, thus becoming more attractive to the opposite sex. Simultaneously, it unconsciously boosts the host's peach blossom luck. Both of these effects are passive. The first one will gradually show some effects. The second, peach blossom luck, is more elusive and intangible. The third effect of the peach blossom goo is an active one. By activating the peach blossom goo, it can release a fragrance known as 5 aggregates peach blossom miasma. This aroma has the effect of bewildering and enchanting the mind. Both people and animals, as well as plants, will be influenced. As for the impact, it depends on the strength of the goo insect. As the peach blossom goo is currently only at the first transformation, the power and effects of the 5 aggregates peach blossom miasma correspond to the Qi refinement realm. Chapter 61. The father of 30 children breaks through to the 4th layer of Qi refinement. Underscore. Could it be that this peach blossom immortal is some kind of flower thief? Otherwise, what upstanding person would cultivate such a goo? Not only does it shape an attractive appearance to the opposite sex, but it also enhances one's peach blossom luck and employs such despicable methods. Having fully grasped the effects of the peach blossom goo, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head. However, he did not mind these aspects. After all, whether something is good or bad depends on the user. Being an upright gentleman like himself, even if the peach blossom goo was indecent, he would put it to good use. The next moment, Lu Changsheng put away the peach blossom goo. The peach blossom goo flew directly to the center of his forehead, forming a pink peach blossom petal mark on his brow. In the time that followed, this peach blossom goo would subtly improve his physical condition and imperceptibly boost his peach blossom luck. Lu Changsheng touched the peach blossom mark on his forehead and, with a thought, the mark immediately dimmed and disappeared from view. Normally, if he didn't use the peach blossom goo, this peach blossom mark could stay hidden from view. It would only appear when he used the 5 accumulations peach blossom miasma. Otherwise, it would be rather odd and somewhat effeminate for a grown man to have a peach blossom mark on his forehead. I'm here on Qingzhou Mountain all day and never go out. I wonder if this peach blossom luck will be of any use? Thinking about that young miss, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but feel a sense of expectation. He left the practice room to see that the night had already grown dark outside. Lu Changsheng went to a secluded courtyard, picked up Jiu'er and Shueya, his 2 favored concubines, and carried them to the bedchamber to start his efforts. He had been giving both of them special attention lately, but neither had become pregnant yet. Lu Changsheng was not concerned about this. He had checked and found nothing wrong with the women's health. They were fertile. With persistent efforts, success would come sooner or later. Moreover, such matters were not only about the results, but also about fully experiencing and savoring the process. Afterward, hiss, Lu Changxing lay back comfortably on the bedchamber, his palm gently stroking the two women's red and blue hair, as smooth as satin. Despite having shared the bed and been attended to many times over such a long period, he still found himself insatiable, feeling immense enjoyment. 6 days later, Lu Changxing found out that Xue'er had successfully conceived, and there was a new breath of life in her womb. Likewise, after his nightly unwavering efforts, 1 month later, Xue'er also successfully conceived. Counting the children in the wombs of these two favored concubines, Lu Changxing calculated that the total number of his children was exactly 30. Not long ago, his 24th child was born. That meant that once the remaining 6 children were born, the system might give out child money. He was still very much looking forward to the system's child money. After all, at this stage, he couldn't count on his children at all, and could only rely on the system to lend him a hand. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. He had been refining the peach blossom goo for over 2 months now. At first, Lu Changxing had been quite expectant of the peach blossom goo. But as the 2 months passed, he felt that he hadn't undergone any changes, nor had the so-called peach blossom luck appeared. This caused his anticipation to nearly vanish. He no longer paid any attention to the peach blossom goo. After all, in terms of appearance, he was already so handsome that any enhancement from the peach blossom goo would be just gilding the lily for him. As for peach blossom luck, such a nebulous thing wasn't something he had any expectations for. On this day, inside the practice room, while Lu Changxing was sitting in meditation and refining qi, he suddenly felt a throb. The bottleneck where he had been stuck at the 3rd level energy refinement for a year finally showed a trace of loosening. The 4th elder had provided him with guidance on his cultivation practices, helping him understand that this sense of loosening was the opportunity to break through from the 3rd level energy refinement to the 4th level. He instantly took out a yellow dragon elixir from his storage bag and swallowed it, then grasped several spirit stones, closed his eyes to concentrate, and rapidly circulated the returning origin technique. No sooner had the elixir entered his body than it dissolved, rapidly depleting under the operation of spiritual power, as spiritual energy from the spirit stones in his hand surged into his body. Lu Changxing's spiritual power circulated faster and faster, his spiritual pressure grew greater and greater, even carrying a sense of irresistibility. After a long time, boom! Lu Changxing's entire body shook violently, his hair and vestment robe dancing. Filth was secreted from his pores, making his body suddenly feel as light as if it were floating. The spiritual energy in his Dantian sea was no longer strand by strand. Instead, it intertwined like streams. 4th level energy refinement, spiritual energy like streams, the body excretes worldly filth. I've finally broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Changxing opened his eyes, feeling the stream-like spiritual power circulating within him. A sense of joy naturally emerged. A year ago, he had already practiced up to the peak of the 3rd level energy refinement. But he had been stuck for a full year until today when he was finally able to break through. He felt that if it weren't for his 9th grade spiritual root advancing to an 8th grade more than 2 months ago, he would probably have been stuck for even longer. No wonder Hong Yi remained at the 3rd level energy refinement for 3 or 4 years without breaking through to the 4th level. Lu Changxing also understood why Hong Yi had stayed at this realm for so long. In Qingzhou Valley, he enjoyed the benefits of a 2nd grade spiritual vein. His meals consisted of jade bamboo rice, demon beast meat, and spiritual vegetables. He drank spiritual tea and occasionally indulged in spiritual wine, and every month he had a yellow dragon elixir to assist his cultivation. Even under these circumstances, he was still trapped by the bottleneck for so long. Although Hong Yi had an 8th grade spiritual root, in the secular world where spiritual energy was scarce and resources limited, and he was busy with errands, breaking through the bottleneck was even harder. This also made him think of Xianxia, who had broken through to the 4th level energy refinement during their 3-year agreement. Thinking about it now, it could only be said that a 4th grade spiritual root was truly terrifying. If it were an upper grade spiritual root, or the legendary earth spirit root, heavenly spiritual root, how terrifying they would be. Lu Changxing didn't think too much about it, stood up, and used a cleansing technique to remove the impurities and filth excreted from his body during the breakthrough. Then he walked out of the practice room somewhat excitedly. It was winter at this time, and snowflakes were fluttering outside, with a layer of pure white snow covering the ground. Although his Qingzhu robe offered protection against the heat and cold, the sudden opening of the door and the cold wind that blew in still made Lu Changxing feel a hint of chill. But it was only a momentary chill. The spiritual power within his body and the vestment robe he wore made the cold dissipate immediately. Unknowingly, I've also been at the Lu family for 5 years. Lu Changxing looked at the green, vigorous, and sturdy Qingzhu bamboos amidst the snowflakes. He thought of the time when he had awakened his previous lives' memories on the heart-questioning platform, after being eliminated by the Qingyun sect's examination. He chose to become a son-in-law who entered the Lu family by marriage. Over the past 5 years, relying on his relentless efforts, he had cultivated from an ordinary person to the 4th level energy refinement. He had also fought from being a breeding son-in-law in the Lu family to a son-in-law who married the granddaughter of an elder. Lu Changxing walked slowly to the front courtyard, seeing a few children in padded jackets running around in the snow playing. A faint smile appeared on his face. These were the fruits of his 5 years of hard work. Chapter 62. Daily Life _1 In the courtyard, a group of children were playing. Daddy! A little girl dressed in a red cotton-padded jacket and fur coat, sitting on a swing and nibbling on a hawthorn stick, called out crisply when she saw Lu Changxing. She then hopped off the swing and ran to Lu Changxing with her little short legs, pitter-pattering away. She handed the hawthorn stick to Lu Changxing and said with a smile, "Daddy, it's so sweet." A smile spread across Lu Changxing's face as he tasted a hawthorn stick. Indeed, it was very sweet to the core. Casting a glance at Lu Pingan and his sons, who were playing joyfully with the 9 netherhound, Lu Changxing couldn't help but huff in mock annoyance before scooping up his daughter. He held her slightly cold hands and said softly, "Come, it's cold outside, let's go play inside." Daughters really are more considerate. Lu Changxing carried his daughter, Lu Xila, into the main hall. There were several braziers placed on each side of the hall with charcoal burning to dispel the chill. His wives and concubines were happily chatting together. However, there were always a few toddlers who had just learned to walk wandering about. Not only did they seem like they could fall at any moment, but they also liked to pick up anything they saw and stuff it into their mouths, requiring constant vigilance. Daddy-da. At that moment, little Qi Lu Xianxia rode over on a mechanical wooden horse and signaled to Lu Changxing to move aside. Lu Changxing saw this and stood his ground, refusing to move. Then Lu Xianxia charged at Lu Changxing with the mechanical wooden horse. The result was the whole person along with the mechanical wooden horse toppled over, leading to a fall on the ground with a pout forming on the little lips as if about to cry. Lu Changxing couldn't help laughing at the sight. He immediately manipulated the mechanical wooden horse with his object manipulating technique to move Dada around his son. Lu Xianxia, who was about to cry, stopped upon seeing this scene. He climbed back onto the wooden horse and ran around happily under Lu Changxing's control, his face brimming with joy. This child had a spiritual root, but he was not precocious or particularly sensible and was just like a normal child. Daddy hug. Little Ten, who was playing nearby, saw Lu Changxing and staggered over with his little short legs, arms outstretched, asking. With one hand holding Lu Xila, Lu Changxing picked up Little Ten with the other. Seeing her holding a white jade bun, he said, "Give Daddy a bite." Little Ten thought for a moment, then lifted the bun in her hand to him. "Daddy will show you how to eat a big bun in one bite." Lu Changxing said and, in one bite, devoured the white jade bun that was as big as an adult's fist from Little Ten's hand. He astonished Lu Xila, Little Ten, and a few other small ones nearby, who all stared with wide eyes. But the next moment, little Ten looked down at her empty hand. Where's my bun? Looking at Lu Changxing smacking his mouth, she pursed her lips in a pout, her face on the verge of tears. It was as if she was saying, "You ate such a big bun all by yourself, without leaving me any. Husband, why do you always like to tease the children?" Lu Miaoyun, with her belly bulging, walked over and chided. Every time Lu Changxing came over, he would tease the children until they cried and then make them happy again. She thought he was truly idle to no end. Speaking of which, she took a white jade bun from a bamboo steamer nearby and handed it to little Ten, a motherly smile spreading across her face. "Here, Yue, be good, no crying. Kids are meant to be played with," Lu Changxing said nonchalantly, also taking a white jade bun to eat. The bun tasted very nice, made of flour ground from white jade spirit wheat. Now that he could afford it, aside from everyday meals, Lu Changxing would also buy lots of spiritual materials and spirit food to keep at home for his wife and children to enjoy some sweet treats, prepared by their maid, Qingzhu. With such a diet every day and living on Qingzhu Mountain, the health of his wives and the little ones had improved significantly, robustly vigorous. Not to mention, children brought up this way were bound to become martial arts prodigies as they grew up. Husband, your aura, you've broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement? At this moment, Lu Miaoyun looked at Lu Changxing, a touch of surprise on her face as she spoke. Having lived with Lu Changxing all the time, she naturally noticed the change in the spiritual power aura emanating from him, which had become much more substantial than usual. That's right, after grinding for so long, I've finally broken through this barrier, Lu Changxing said with a smile, nodding his head. Congratulations, husband, on breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Miaoyun's face lit up with a smile. She hugged Lu Changxing's arm and gave it a playful shake, her sparkling eyes full of admiration as she spoke. Congratulations to my husband. Congratulations to my husband on your breakthrough to the middle stage of qi refinement. Congratulations to my husband on another step forward on the path of immortality. A group of wives and concubines congratulated Lu Changxing one after another. Wow, Daddy is so amazing. Congratulations, Daddy. Congratulations, Daddy. The children, seeing their mothers doing so, also gathered around Lu Changxing, chirping and shouting excitedly. Lu Changxing laughed heartily. Then, with a smile all over his face, he waved his hand and said, "It's just the 4th level of energy refinement." He had to admit, the feeling of being adored and admired by his wives and children was quite pleasant. It satisfied his sense of male pride immensely. Every time, a sense of pride, happiness, and satisfaction would arise in his heart. Thereafter, Lu Changxing teased the children and chatted with his wives and concubines. This was his daily leisure time for relaxation. Otherwise, staying indoors every day with nothing to do but cultivate and procreate, the dull life without other entertainment would be bearable for a short time, but truly grinding over the long term. The next day, Lu Changxing rubbed his lower back. The previous night, in celebration of his breakthrough to the middle stage of qi refinement, his wives and concubines bashfully fulfilled some of his requests. It left him almost without rest for the entire night. "Your body is your capital for revolution," he sighed softly. Afterwards, he left home and went to the 4th elder's residence. Today wasn't the usual day at the end of the month when the 4th elder taught talisman making and cultivation. Rather, previously, the 4th elder had told him to inform her once he broke through to the 4th level of energy refinement. Although he did not know what it was concerning, having been instructed by his grandmother, Lu Changxing naturally made his way there. After all, this kind of matter wasn't something that needed to be hidden. "Son-in-law, the old lady is currently crafting a talisman, and you might need to wait for a while," said the steward of the 4th elder's household, respectfully presenting tea to Lu Changxing. "Purple bamboo granny, I'm not in a hurry, go ahead with your duties," Lu Changxing replied to the steward, accepting the tea. About half an hour passed. The 4th elder arrived in the hall. Her attire today was different from usual. She wore a lotus crown on her head and a blue-brown flowing cloud Taoist robe, resembling a female Taoist. She seemed to have shed some of her usual elegance and nobility, instead exuding an air of transcendence and quiet grace. Lu Changsheng understood that his grandmother, although a top-level talisman master of the first grade, did not have a high success rate in crafting supreme talismans. Normally, when she needed to craft supreme talismans, she would choose an auspicious day. Then she would proceed with purification rituals, such as cleansing her body, face, hands, etc., and adjust her state to increase the success rate of talisman crafting. Her attire as a female Taoist was also part of her talisman crafting ritual. Lu Changsheng rose and bowed in salute. "Grandmother." "Changsheng, have you come to see your grandmother for a reason?" asked the fourth elder, smiling kindly at Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng had been married to Lu Miaoyun for more than half a year. In that half year, the fourth elder had observed all of Lu Changsheng's actions. Industrious and steady, neither arrogant nor impetuous, and especially gifted in talisman making. This made her increasingly satisfied with this grandson-in-law. She believed that marrying Lu Miaoyun to Lu Changsheng was absolutely the right decision. She even started to become unconcerned about Lu Changsheng having a multitude of wives and concubines. Because she had realized that Lu Changsheng was not as she had known, immersed in the pursuit of female company all day. In this half-year, he had not neglected his talisman-making duties, and his performance only improved. Chapter 63. Managing the Spiritual Talisman Shop under Changsheng, have you broken through to the fourth-level energy refinement? At this moment, fourth elder noticed the change in spiritual power emanating from Lu Changsheng's body, her face revealing a surprised yet delighted expression. Although Lu Changsheng had used the aura concealment technique to hide his internal spiritual power, his mastery of the technique was not profound, merely at the stage of basic proficiency. After all, once he had learned the basics of these fundamental spells, he did not spend too much time or thought on them. As fourth elder possessed the strength of the ninth-level energy refinement, with careful observation, she could easily discern the changes in Lu Changsheng's cultivation level. Yes, Changsheng just broke through to the fourth-level energy refinement yesterday, so I came today to inform grandmother. Lu Changsheng nodded and responded aloud. Good, I didn't expect you to break through to the fourth-level energy refinement so quickly, much faster than grandmother had anticipated, fourth elder said as she sat down next to the chair, smiling. "Tell me, grandmother," said Lu Changsheng, somewhat puzzled. "What could someone at his level of fourth-level energy refinement do? Our Lu family has a spiritual talisman shop in Nine Dragons Market, and I've been thinking of having you manage it," fourth elder stated. Manage the spiritual talisman shop? Lu Changsheng was somewhat astonished upon hearing this. Being a cultivation family, the Lu family naturally had various sources of income. For instance, the mountainous green spiritual bamboo and Bu spiritual bamboo were among the family's main sources of income. The spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and spiritual medicine that they usually cultivated were also sold in the marketplaces in excess of their personal needs. That's why the Lu family also had their own shops in some marketplaces. He knew Nine Dragons Market was a large marketplace relatively close to Qingzhou Mountain, established by the dominant power in the area, the Qingyun sect. Having been with the Lu family for so many years and entering its core circles, he had come to understand much more about the family's affairs. Families like the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, although they claimed to be independent powers, were actually under the rule of the Qingyun sect. Every year, they were obliged to offer a tribute to the Qingyun sect. This was also why Lu Yuanding had been able to go to the Qingyun sect's mountains and recruit discarded disciples for marriage alliances. If you were a power with no connections to the Qingyun sect, would you dare to do such a thing? Back when the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Chen family of Red Leaf Valley fought over the ownership of a spirit stone mine, both families' foundation establishment ancestors had taken action. In the end, it was an elder of Qingyun sect who intervened to mediate and called a halt to the conflict, telling both families to cease their fight. Of course, the final verdict was that the Qingyun sect took 40% of the mine's profits, leaving the remaining 60% to be evenly split between the Lu family and the Chen family at 30% each. When Lu Changsheng first heard about this, he couldn't help but sigh. Truly, power was the supreme rule. The Lu and Chen families fought to the death over the spirit stone mine's profits, and then the Qingyun sect simply came and took away 40%, with the two families daring not say a word. The fact that this spiritual talisman shop was located in Nine Dragons Market also indicated that among the Lu family's numerous shops, it was quite a decent one. Unexpectedly, Fourth Elder was actually suggesting to put such a shop under his management. Yes, I had previously left Miaoge in charge of the spiritual talisman shop, Fourth Elder confirmed. But as you know, Miaoge has now been promoted to middle-grade talisman master and is preparing to charge at the 7th level energy refinement, so she really doesn't have the time or energy to spare. That's why I thought of letting you learn to manage it, she continued. Your grandmother was somewhat apprehensive about you before, but now that you've broken through to the 4th level energy refinement, she feels much more at ease. Consider it a form of practice. Once you're familiar with it, grandmother will hand over the management of the spiritual talisman shop to you directly. The tasks are quite simple. Keep an eye on the shop, replenish stock every month, and guide the apprentices occasionally. During this period, your grandmother will also provide you with an additional stipend. The Fourth Elder picked up the tea, took a gentle sip, and spoke slowly. In the Lu family, apart from Lu Changxing, there are a total of 3 talisman masters. Her, Lu Miaoge, and a Lu family disciple who had recently advanced to an elementary talisman master. Now Lu Miaoge needs to concentrate on talisman making and spend time cultivating. She simply doesn't have much leisure time to manage the shop. That Lu family disciple has only just become an elementary talisman master, clearly not suitable. And Lu Changxing is not only a middle-grade talisman master but also her grandson-in-law. She has been quite satisfied with his performance over the past 6 months, essentially recognizing Lu Changxing as one of her own. So she thought of entrusting the shop to Lu Changxing. That would spare them the trouble of hiring a talisman master to preside over the shop. And it would also give Lu Changxing a chance to get involved with the Lu family business, to gain experience and to have a look around outside. After hearing the Fourth Elder's words, Lu Changxing's first impulse was to refuse. He just wanted to live a stable and low-key life in the Lu family. But with the Fourth Elder putting it that way, it would be hard for him to refuse when he had no good reason to do so. After all, in a cultivation family like the Lu family, members enjoy the benefits and treatment the family provides. At a certain age and level of power, they all have to contribute to the family. People like Lu Miaoge, who are talented and also possess an aptitude for talisman making, and who is the daughter of the family head, are no exception. Since he married Lu Miaoyun, he was now considered a member of the Lu family and naturally could not avoid such matters. Moreover, the Fourth Elder intended to entrust him with managing the spiritual talisman shop, which was a kind gesture for his benefit. It would not only bring him an additional income but also put him in charge of some business. He would get to know more things, and his status within the Lu family would also rise significantly. Changxing will abide by grandmother's arrangements, Lu Changxing said after a moment of thought, bowing in response. He also understood that it was unrealistic for him to expect to stay in the Lu family indefinitely without stepping outside or doing anything and still advance to foundation establishment. Since that was the case, he might as well agree. Nine Dragons Market, established by Qingyun sect, was a large marketplace with foundation establishment great cultivators standing guard. Inside the market, few dared to cause trouble. If he were to manage the spiritual talisman shop, he wouldn't need to worry too much about danger. Furthermore, taking care of the shop would mean an extra source of income. And with the thousands of talismans he had stored, he would find it easier to sell them. When it came to buying materials for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body art, it would be much more convenient. In the past 6 months, during his talisman trade with Hong Yi's appointed persons, he also asked Hong Yi to purchase materials on his behalf. But it was not only time-consuming, the materials he needed were not always available, and the back-and-forth communications were extremely inconvenient. If he went to Nine Dragons Market himself, buying whatever materials he wanted in the future would become very convenient. The only downside was that life in Nine Dragons Market wouldn't be as comfortable as it was now. Without the benefits of a second-grade spiritual vein and his wives not by his side, he would fall behind in childbearing. However, if he went to the market, he could also look into taking a few fairies with spiritual roots as concubines. After all, when it comes to having children, especially those with spiritual roots, taking concubines is necessary. Perhaps his useless peach blossom goo might prove to be somewhat effective. At the moment, Lu Changxing felt that he hadn't encountered any romantic luck simply because he never left the house, thus the peach blossoms couldn't find their way to him. Alright then, it's settled. When Miaoge returns in a few days, you'll go with her, the fourth elder agreed with a smile. Yes, grandmother, Lu Changxing nodded in agreement. Afterwards, he took 2 boxes of spirit fruit pastries back home from the fourth elder's house. Chapter 64. The hardworking Li Feiyu _1. After returning home, Lu Changxing spoke to his wives and concubines, including Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, about his plans to travel to Nine Dragons Market in some time. His wives and concubines reacted with mixed feelings upon hearing this news. They were pleased that Lu Changxing was taking responsibility for the family's enterprise, which was a good thing and demonstrated the Lu family's esteem for him. The worry stemmed from the fact that Lu Changxing would be away from home for a long while, which was quite hard for them to bear. The Nine Dragons Market is not far from Qingzhou Mountain. When the time comes, I can return home once a month, just like the young miss. Once your husband gets acquainted there, I will take you out for a visit too. Lu Changxing said to his wives and concubines. He had always found life in Qingzhou Valley somewhat dull and boring. The wives and concubines naturally felt the same. Therefore, if it turned out to be relatively stable in Nine Dragons Market, he thought of bringing a few of his wives and concubines over to stay and have fun, as a way to unwind. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. The women were very happy to hear this. Husband, take Xiaoqing with you when you go, suggested Lu Miaoyun. That way, you'll have someone to look after you. Lu Miaoyun spoke up to Lu Changxing at this point. I'm a grown man, I don't need anyone to look after me. Besides, you need Xiaoqing to serve you right now, he replied with a wave of his hand, indicating he didn't need her to come. Husband, just take Xiaoqing with you. If I can't accompany you, let Xiaoqing be by your side, please. Lu Miaoyun immediately bit her tender lip, her large watery eyes gazing at Lu Changxing. At the same time, she gently shook his arm while leaning against him, cooing sweetly in a tender and charming voice. Alright, I'll take her, just as you wish, Yuna. Lu Changxing had always been a man to yield to gentleness rather than force. Seeing his wife's coquettish pleading, he indulgently agreed right away. He guessed that Lu Miaoyun wanted him to take Xiaoqing not only for her company but also to have someone keep an eye on him, to prevent him from flirting with other women outside and bringing back a flock of women. However, Lu Changxing didn't mind. He felt it would be fine to take Xiaoqing along. It is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but difficult to go from luxury to frugality. He had been served by others for years and would indeed feel unaccustomed in a place without someone to serve him. Having his own person by his side would be convenient. Moreover, if he really wanted to take additional concubines, it would make no difference whether Xiaoqing was with him or not. But let's first see what the situation is like over there before deciding. We don't even know what it's like right now, Lu Changxing said, pinching his wife's cheek. After all, he was going there for business. Bringing a maidservant without knowing anything about the situation would seem as if he were going for pleasure rather than business, and it would leave a poor impression. Seeing her husband agree, Lu Miaoyun immediately gave a sweet and slightly naive smile. She also understood that preventing her husband from taking new concubines was impossible. But as a woman and a wife, it wasn't possible to just watch and do nothing either. That night, knowing that Lu Changxing would leave home in a few days, All his wives and concubines lovingly attended to him with tender care. After 6 months of cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, nourishing himself with dietary delicacies and spiritual wine, as well as breaking through to the 4th level energy refinement, Lu Changsheng's combat abilities had also greatly increased. However, faced with the devoted affections and relentless attentions of his wives and concubines, Lu Changsheng was still overwhelmed. He even suspected that his wives were using this method to remind him not to flirt or take new women in Nine Dragons Market. Once I get to Nine Dragons Market, I should put in more effort to complete the 100 refinements treasure body technique as soon as possible, he thought. Otherwise, if I return home every month, I won't be able to withstand it, and I'll have no face to take concubines or bring new women back home. Lu Changsheng lay on his bed, silently musing. The following day, Lu Changsheng suddenly remembered his transaction of talismans with Hong Yi. Every 3 months, Hong Yi would send someone to trade talismans, and there was a little over a month left until the next trade. If he went to Nine Dragons Market, he very likely wouldn't be at home when the time came. So, Lu Changsheng informed Lu Miaoyun about the talisman trade and gave her 30 pre-drawn talismans. He told her to handle the trade with Hong Yi's envoy when they arrived. Selling some low-quality talismans to a friend isn't something worth hiding. The Lu family knows, then they know, Hong Yi thought to himself. Moreover, Hong Yi felt that the Lu family might have known about his affair for quite some time. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoyun was very clever in her response, assuring Hong Yi that he could rest easy. Afterward, Hong Yi went to Qingzhou Villa, thinking of having a chat with Li Feiyu to see how he had been recently. However, when he arrived at Li Feiyu's home, Li Feiyu was not there. Li Feiyu's wife told Hong Yi that Li Feiyu had gone farming. Surprised by this news, Hong Yi was astonished. After chatting with Li Feiyu's wife, he learned that a few months earlier, after Li Feiyu had become proficient as a spiritual butcher, he also mastered the skills of a spirit planter, the minor cloud rain technique and the Gingjin technique. He then took a job as a spiritual farmer from Uncle Fu. Not only that, sometimes Li Feiyu would also take on work for refining and processing materials. Many low-grade spiritual materials, due to the large amount of impurities they contained, could not be used directly. Therefore, a job was created for cultivators to use their spiritual power to cleanse and refine the materials continuously, removing the impurities. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi didn't know what to say for a moment. He couldn't help but sigh, thinking that cultivation was hard, but survival was even harder. Yet he also faintly understood that Li Feiyu was working so hard not only to support his family, but also to prepare for the day when he would leave the Lu family. After all, the work of a spiritual butcher alone would be enough for Li Feiyu to support his family. Around noon, Li Feiyu returned, covered in dust and clearly weary, but his eyes were bright and full of energy. Back when he was with the Lu family, he only had the task of having children every day. Now, no longer bound by that duty, his life was hard, but at least it offered a glimmer of hope. After all, the most frightening thing for people is to see no hope at all. Changsheng, what brings you here? Li Feiyu was surprised to see Hong Yi at his home. I just came to see how you're doing, Hong Yi said with a smile. He then told Li Feiyu that he would leave the Lu family in some time to head to the Nine Dragons Market. If there was anything Li Feiyu needed, he could make purchases on his behalf. Though Qingzhou Villa had 100 treasures pavilion, from Hong Yi's perspective, the selection of items available for purchase was quite limited. At the Lu family, valuable items required an application and expenditure of family contributions. Li Feiyu, of course, had nothing to buy. He simply told Hong Yi to be careful outside, and shared some experiences and precautions for traveling out in the world. While what Li Feiyu spoke about pertained to the secular world of martial artists, these principles were equally applicable in the cultivation world. Then, Hong Yi also told Li Feiyu that if there was anything he needed help with, he shouldn't hesitate to ask, and not be embarrassed about it. It would be a real loss if Li Feiyu were to wear himself out with his efforts in the Lu family. Upon hearing this, Li Feiyu somewhat awkwardly requested to borrow some spirit stones. He explained that while working as a spiritual butcher, he learned that the Lu family raised a type of spiritual hog known as black hogs. These black hogs could be sold for around 50 spirit stones each after 3 years of raising. In the past 6 months, he had mastered the breeding process and methods for these black hogs and wished to raise 2 on his own. But the cost for 1 piglet was 6 spirit stones, and he currently did not have enough initial capital, only managing to spare 4 spirit stones. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi couldn't help shaking his head, thinking how determined Li Feiyu was. Not only was he juggling his role as the spiritual butcher and spirit planter, but he was also planning on raising 2 spiritual hogs. However, he also knew that with Li Feiyu's current circumstances, hard work and effort were his only options for cultivation. Right away, Hong Yi took out 20 spirit stones and lent them to Li Feiyu. Hong Yi's personal income at the Lu family amounted to roughly 10 spirit stones monthly. In addition, completing his talisman-making tasks granted him another 10 spirit stones each month, and he could often turn in an extra 3 to 5 talismans for about another 10 spirit stones. Moreover, every 3 months, Hong Yi could also expect over 40 spirit stones from Hong Yi. Therefore, his current income was quite substantial. So, he was able to lend some spirit stones to help Li Feiyu. But Li Feiyu only borrowed 10, stating that 10 would be sufficient, and he could repay them once the spiritual rice from the spirit fields was ready to be harvested. Hong Yi didn't say much in response, understanding Li Feiyu's character. Later, after having a meal at Li Feiyu's place, the 2 men enjoyed some spiritual wine and chatted before Hong Yi took his leave. Chapter 65. The Gift. _1 Before long, more than half a month had passed. One day, the steward from the 4th elder's residence came and requested Lu Changsheng's presence. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng immediately followed the steward to the 4th elder's dwelling. As soon as he entered the hall, he saw the 4th elder talking with Lu Miaoge about something. He approached and with a slight bow, said, "Grandmother, Sister Miaoge." Having studied talisman making under the 4th elder for so long, his manner of addressing Lu Miaoge had also changed, becoming much more intimate. However, this intimacy was not the kind he desired. "Changsheng, you are here." Seeing Lu Changsheng arrive, the 4th elder smiled and nodded, saying, "I have already discussed with Miaoge the matter of you accompanying her to manage the spiritual talisman shop in the 9 Dragons Market. You will follow Maiage's arrangements when the time comes. She will also be in the 9 Dragons Market for the next period, so you should ask her for advice often." So said the 4th elder. "Yes, grandmother." Lu Changsheng nodded and turning towards Lu Miaoge, bowed again. "I'll be relying on Sister Miaoge from now on." "It's no trouble." Lu Miaoge gently shook her head, her voice always soft-spoken and gentle as water. "Changsheng, you rarely go out, so for this trip, grandmother has prepared some gifts for you," the 4th elder said to Lu Changsheng. In the midst of her words, she took out 3 brocade boxes of different sizes from her storage bag and placed them on the table. Thank you, grandmother." Lu Changsheng's eyes brightened upon hearing this, curious about the 4th elder's gifts. His grandmother was an elder of the Lu family, a top-level talisman master of the 1st grade. Her gifts would certainly be generous. "Open them and see," the 4th elder said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge also looked on curiously, wondering what gifts her great-aunt had prepared for Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng opened the first long-shaped brocade box. Inside lay a 3-foot-long sword in a green scabbard, with a tassel of green threads. This magical sword is named Greenface, and it is a middle-grade magic artifact. However, it contains a trace of green goldstone, making its sharpness far superior to others of its grade and very suitable for you to use now. The 4th elder introduced. Lu Changsheng was surprised as he looked at the green-faced sword in front of him. He had not expected his great-aunt to be so generous as to gift a middle-grade magical instrument. Lower-grade magical instruments typically cost around 50 spirit stones. Middle-grade magical instruments cost around 150 spirit stones. Although after breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement, one can employ a middle-grade flying sword many cultivators at the late stage of energy refinement cannot afford, or are unwilling to purchase, a middle-grade magical instrument. Like those 3 robber cultivators he had killed on Bullhead Mountain, they had the cultivation levels of the 6th and 7th level of energy refinement, yet they all wielded lower-grade magical instruments. And this green-face sword was clearly not just an ordinary middle-grade magical instrument. Its price was likely around 200 spirit stones. "Thank you, grandmother." Lu Changsheng expressed his thanks and picked up the magical sword. It was slightly heavy and cool to the touch. The scabbard was entirely green like jade. The scabbard bore gold inlaid patterns, and the tassel was gold, clearly decorative additions made afterward. Magical swords like this one can generally change in size according to one's will. Seeing this style of magical sword, he knew that it was not in the same league as the flying sword he had obtained from Bullhead Mountain. It was clearly a high-end flying sword. Because with flying swords, the most common feature is sharpness, practicality. Only high-end flying swords would have effort put into their appearance. Lu Changsheng pulled the sword from its sheath. The blade was entirely silver-white, but the surface had a faint halo of green gold flowing over it, the cold light flickering. The 4th elder smiled and directly opened the 2nd brocade box. Within the 2nd box lay an exquisite and majestic vestment robe, with the light shimmering over its sky-blue fabric, edged with gold embroidery. For managing the shop on this outing, you should dress well to reflect your status. This is a middle-grade magical robe with a total of 7 magical array effects: size adjustment, dust avoidance, springtime warmth, wind transformation, concealment, spirit concentration, and body protection. I won't go into detail about the first 3 effects, as they are similar to the ones on your current Qingzhu robe. Wind transformation allows fierce winds to be softened into gentle breezes. Grandma has applied for an iron feather eagle from the family for you, so your future travels to and from the 9 Dragons marketplace will be much more convenient. The wind transformation effect of this robe will allow you to ride the iron feather eagle without being affected by strong winds, without the need to expend mana to resist them. Grandma knows you don't like to show off. The concealment function allows the robe's radiance to be contained, making it appear like ordinary clothing and not attracting attention. The spirit concentration effect can gather a small scope of concentrated spirit energy, which is somewhat helpful for your cultivation. The body protection effect can passively trigger a body protecting technique when you're in danger, capable of blocking a single hit from a cultivator at the 7th level energy refinement. The 4th elder spoke slowly, introducing the magical robe to Lu Changsheng. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng's face lit up with surprise. A middle-grade magical robe. The robe he was currently wearing was the Qingzhu robe awarded to him by Lu Yuanding for being the first child born into the Lu family. It didn't even count as a lower-grade magical instrument. It had only 3 basic effects: size adjustment, springtime warmth, and dust avoidance. But this middle-grade magical robe boasted 7 effects in total. 4 more than the original, including spirit concentration, wind transformation, concealment, and body protection. Especially body protection. The ability to passively trigger a body-protecting technique when in danger, capable of blocking a single hit from a cultivator at the middle stage of energy refinement, was incredibly delightful to Lu Changsheng. With this robe, he no longer had to worry about being ambushed by other martial artists or cultivators up close. "Thank you, Grandma." Lu Changsheng bowed his hands in gratitude once again, his face full of joy. In this moment, he couldn't help but feel appreciative of his grandmother's generous gesture. A middle-grade magical instrument was worth 150 spirit stones. That usually referred to magical swords and the like. The price of a robe would be considerably higher. This middle-grade magical robe was estimated to be worth 200 spirit stones. With the green-face sword and this robe, the cost was over 400 spirit stones. And what's more, this gift was not just expensive, his grandmother had also put a lot of thought into it, covering every aspect thoroughly. Lu Changsheng had thought he would be riding a spirit steed to the 9 Dragons marketplace. Unexpectedly, the 4th elder had secured him a flying mount. In the Lu family, flight mounts were also scarce and very rare. The fourth elder smiled, opened the third brocade box, and cheerfully said, "These are a few talismans I've drawn myself for you to carry for protection." There were a total of 3 talismans inside. Lu Changsheng recognized these 3 talismans at a glance. Superior Grade Talisman, Thunder Summoning Talisman. Superior Grade Talisman, Escape Talisman. Supreme Talisman, Thunder Talisman. The Thunder Summoning Talisman and the Escape Talisman, both being rather difficult superior grade talismans, could sell for 40 to 50 spirit stones each if put on the market. The Supreme Talisman, Thunder Talisman, was even more valuable, worth at least 200 spirit stones. With the green face sword, the middle grade magical robe, and these 3 talismans, the total value was at least 700 spirit stones. Back when Lu Changxing was on Bullhead Mountain, after killing 3 robber cultivators, his total gains amounted to roughly 500 spirit stones, which was already a considerable fortune. But at this moment, the fourth elder directly presented him with gifts worth over 700 spirit stones, a truly grand gesture. "Thank you, Grandma." This gift made Lu Changxing somewhat moved. He bowed and earnestly said, indeed, it was because he had value that the Lu family, and the fourth elder before him, treated him so well. But many things are judged by actions rather than intentions, and at least the kindness of the fourth elder before him was genuine. All this, Lu Changxing remembered in his heart. We're all family here. There's no need for thanks when a grandmother gives something to her grandson, the fourth elder said gently to Lu Changxing. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing looked at the fourth elder and showed a sincere smile, nodding his head and saying, "Yes, Grandma." "Changxing, do you recognize these 3 talismans?" The fourth elder pointed to the 3 talismans in the brocade box and asked. Chapter 66, Magic Artifact, Magical Robe. _1, Grandmother, I naturally recognize these 3 talismans, Lu Changxing said. This one is a superior grade talisman, the Thunder Summoning Talisman, which can unleash a bolt of lightning comparable to a full strike from a 9th level energy refinement cultivator. This is a superior grade talisman, the Escape Talisman, which, when used, can conceal one's form and burrow into the ground, escaping several miles away. And this is a supreme talisman, the Thunder Talisman, releasing a bolt of lightning upon activation, equivalent to a peak 9th level energy refinement cultivator's full force strike. Lu Changxing spoke gravely. He could naturally tell that these 3 talismans had been specially prepared for him by the fourth elder, to protect him in case of any danger or mishaps. With these 3 talismans by his side, as long as he didn't encounter a Foundation Establishment great cultivator, he basically had the power to protect himself. That's right, it seems you have been studying seriously, Changxing. These should not pose a challenge for you. Keep these items, and put on this magical robe for grandmother to see, the fourth elder said with a smile, reaching out her palm and gently touching Lu Changxing's head with a tender voice. Yes. Lu Changxing nodded, put away the 3 brocade boxes, and went to a side hall to change clothes. Lu Miaoge, who was at the side, also showed surprise in her eyes upon seeing these 3 gifts. Surprised at how generous her great-grandmother was. Although her great-grandmother was a talisman master and had much more wealth than the average cultivator, cultivators always seemed to spend as much as they earned. There was no habit of saving money. They would instead convert all resources into personal cultivation and strength. Therefore, this gift worth more than 700 spirit stones could really be considered a grand gesture. Moreover, the fourth elder had also put thought into these 3 items, all according to Lu Changxing's current situation. Even though she couldn't help but envy the favoritism her great-grandmother showed towards Lu Changxing, in her heart, she also understood the probable reason. On one hand, her great-grandmother wanted Lu Changxing to fully integrate into the Lu family. On the other hand, it was also because of how Lu Changxing had conducted himself in the past half-year, earning the liking of the fourth elder. Almost treated by the fourth elder as a biological grandson. That's why she was so indulgent and generous. Lu Changxing came to the side hall. He took off the Qingzhu robe he had been wearing for 5 years. He put on the middle-grade magic artifact magical robe given by the fourth elder. A gentle and rich expression appeared on his gentle face, as he said with an affectionate smile of an elder, "Not bad, it seems my Changxing was born to wear such magical robes, very handsome." Having practiced the immortal beauty technique for so many years and having received the peach blossom goo, Lu Changsheng's face could certainly be described as striking, with an extraordinary temperament. In terms of the immortal beauty technique, it was an outstanding peak, a half-step beyond the ordinary. With handsome features and a gentle temperament, his deep-set features came together just right, making him extremely pleasant to look at. It was like basking in the spring breeze. Now donning the magical robe with spiritual light circulating around him, the gentle and unhurried elegance of his temperament gained an air of immortality as if he were an exile from the heavens. "It's all thanks to grandmother's good eye for clothes." Lu Changxing responded generously, his temperament soft and gentle as jade or a spring breeze. "Grandmother speaks the truth, Changxing, you truly fit this kind of magical robe tremendously, giving off an aura of immortality," the fourth elder said with a smile. Then he looked towards Lu Miaoge. "Right, Miaoge?" Lu Miaoge, standing to the side, looked at Lu Changxing. She had to admit that he looked indeed very handsome. She had seen men with better looks than Lu Changxing before. But she had never seen someone like Lu Changxing, who had a harmonious blend of features, skin, physique, posture, and temperament. There was an indescribable harmony and comfort to his presence, making him exceedingly pleasant to behold, naturally engendering goodwill in others. Especially at this moment, with the robe's spiritual light swirling around him, it perfectly complemented Lu Changsheng's physique and aura. He bore quite the air of a celestial being. Brother-in-law Changxing really suits this kind of magical robe. It's also thanks to great-grandma's discerning taste in knowing what clothes suit Changxing best, Lu Miaoge said with a light smile, her voice as gentle as a cloud. Lu Changxing chuckled, not expecting this young lady to have such high emotional intelligence. "Changxing, remember to go to Lu later to get the iron feather eagle." "I've already spoken with Lu," the fourth elder said with a smile. "In 2 days, you will depart for the 9 Dragons market with Miaoge. Spend these next 2 days at home, keeping Miaoyun and the others company." The fourth elder walked up with a smile, straightened Lu Changsheng's collar, and smoothed out the creases of the robe. This caring and doting gesture from an elder moved Lu Changxing deeply. The heart is made of flesh. Over the past 6 months, this fourth elder had been nothing short of wonderful to him. He nodded and replied, "Rest assured, grandmother." After that, the fourth elder gave further guidance to him and Lu Miaoge on talisman making. At present, Lu Changsheng's talent for talisman crafting was on the right path. The fourth elder and Lu Miaoge had also more or less come to accept that Lu Changxing was indeed a 1 in million talent in the talisman path. Lu Changxing estimated that with another couple of years' practice, he would be able to reveal himself as a superior grade talisman master. At that time, his standard of living would rise yet another step. He was quite looking forward to it. If he became a superior grade talisman master, he wondered if the Lu family would marry more sisters to him in order to win him over and deepen his ties with the family. At noon, the two left the residence of the fourth elder. Lu Changxing made the magical robe's spiritual light discreet and went to Lu Ba's residence to collect the iron feather eagle. After all, the items sold in such shops generally cost more than those on loose cultivators' stalls. This increase in price was a guarantee of quality. Materials like talisman paper, spirit ink, and talisman brushes were no exception. Furthermore, sometimes when the shop was out of a certain type of talisman and a customer urgently needed one, he, as a talisman master, would do his best to draw one if he could. After introducing Lu Changxing to the employees, Lu Miaoge didn't say much more and let everyone disperse. She took out a stack of talismans from her storage bag and handed them to Zhang Shan. All were first-grade middle and superior talismans. Every month when she returned, in addition to guidance from the fourth elder in talisman making, she would also bring back a batch of talismans from him. Lu Miaoge told Lu Changxing that in addition to some middle and superior grade talismans, the fourth elder would also draw 3 first-grade supreme talismans every month. These were the treasures of the spiritual talisman shop, the backbone of their establishment. However, she would not give these 3 supreme talismans to Zhang Shan. Instead, she kept them on her person. If someone wanted them, she would conduct the transaction in person. Afterward, she took Lu Changxing on a tour of the shop and introduced him to its situation. The shop had 3 floors. The first floor housed the sales hall, a reception room, and a small courtyard in the back. The second floor was where Li Shi and Wang Wu worked and rested. The third floor was designated for the boss Lu Miaoge to rest and sleep, equipped with a living room, bedroom, lounge, talisman room, and storage room. The third floor had restrictions set up, and one needed a token to enter. Then, Lu Miaoge told Lu Changxing that she rarely stayed there. If Lu Changxing found it inconvenient to stay at the Lu family's Eastern District mansion, he could also stay here. Lu Changxing was indifferent. He expressed his preference to first stay at the Lu family mansion in the Eastern District. Having come to Nine Dragons Market, he thought it appropriate to make a visit there. Before coming, the fourth elder had told him that the Nine Dragons Market was not limited to just one spiritual talisman shop, but also included other Lu family businesses. The second elder of the Lu family was in charge of the Lu family's marketplace affairs, and he usually resided in the Nine Dragons Market. He informed him that should he need anything, he could also directly seek out the second elder. So naturally, having arrived, he should pay a visit. This was the way of the family, with many social obligations. Otherwise, he would appear too aloof and asocial. Sister Miaoge, it's getting late, may I treat you to a meal? You'll be burdened with helping me in the days to come, otherwise I'd feel guilty. After taking a tour of the shop with Lu Miaoge and finishing the handover, Lu Changxing spoke to her.